Give you our praise. Thank you, everybody, for being on once again. We'll make sure that Facebook can come on and the podcast is started, but hopefully, you all are doing well. Hopefully, you're staying warm wherever you are as the seasons change. I know for some, it's a lot going on with all these different dynamics. I know some people have been catching colds and stuff like that. We're praying for you, praying for those who've lost family, praying for those of you who have family who have unfortunately ran into disease. I'm not sure whose business I can and cannot put out there, but we hope that you guys are doing well and that your family members continue to be healed and taken care of. And we will obviously, as best we can, we will be there for you and to help you through. And we're here to talk to you if you need us. Just letting that be known. Praise Yah. Thank you to the ministerial staff for doing everything that you guys do. As always, appreciate you. Appreciate your hearts and appreciate your effort and your energy that you put into making sure that you are the greatest that you can be. Already, I think technology is your friend until it's not. But I think we got it just about. But let's go ahead and get started. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osaya Anakituwaya, Ohio. I see you. Manut. Habari gani? Akwa aba. Itesen. Aloha, Bakwatav, Shabbat Shalom. Yes, for us, this is Shabbat Shalom on the Israelite calendar. For others, Reshan Shalom, if you're going by today being the first day of your week. But Reshan Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Barakallah Sham Yahava, Shalom Allah Sham Yahava, Tada Yachashara Al, Kwam Achi at At Zayin, at Taba, Barak Yahava, at Yahava, at Taba. And Kofi Kohelet at Servants of Christ. Mashallah. Hey, hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for being with us again. And we appreciate your presence as we continue to go through this series. We give all praise and honor once again to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out at TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Hello, wise guy. Great name. Welcome to you. If you're going by the Gregorian calendar and you can only keep Saturday, then feel free. But on the Israelite calendar, it goes by the positioning of the moon. We've been in a new month for a little while, and therefore our 7 days go different. Right now, the first day for us, Harashan, is actually on your Monday, and Shabbat actually starts on what you call Sunday, but Sunday is the day of worshiping the sun. Saturday, right? Sunday, day of worshiping the sun. Monday of moon worship. Tuesday, day of worshiping the God of war. Wednesday, day of worshiping Odin, right? Thursday, Thor's Day, Friday, Frida's Day, Saturday, Saturnalia. So if you have to keep Saturday because you're in the land of your captivity, we all are. So we do our best, and we do provide things for people that want to be on a Sabbath, of course. But, for those of you who are able to keep something different or would like to at least kind of know how things go culturally, we try to make sure we adhere to culture as best we can. But welcome to everybody. Thank you for being on. We appreciate you, and we appreciate any questions, comments, and concerns that you may have. We once again are grateful and thankful and blessed to have you all on. If you would like to, if you could turn with us in your Bibles to the book of John. We're going to go to John chapter 3. We're going to continue in this series, Babylonian Benefactors. Right, there are certain things that Babylon presents to us, and we want to make sure that we're doing things that are righteous and doing things according with the will of Yah. So I don't always necessarily bow down to the things of the world, including even their days of the week. But if that's what we're going to hold on to, feel free to hold on to it. But we're thankful, we're grateful, we're appreciative to all of you for being on today. We once again are very much so appreciative of all the stuff that you are doing to help your community and doing to become better. So we're going to John chapter 3. Once you have it, if you want to say amen, say I got it, say I'm with you, whatever the case might be. We appreciate you doing so. While we're doing that, we'll say hello to everybody and then introduce our business, so to speak, for the week. This person actually has many different businesses, so I won't even be able to consolidate it all. I'll focus on just 2 or 3 of them. But we're thankful and grateful. But how's everybody doing? How you doing, Sister Joy? How you doing, MIT Stephen? Hopefully you're feeling better. How you doing, Minister Anais? How you doing? Of course, to my wife, the Honorable Maya. Thanks for being on once again. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Hello, Money Green. Hello, Denise. Hello, Sister Knight. Hello, everybody. Cheryl's. I'm sorry, Elder Yacheska Kelvin, Brother Keith, Chantel, everybody. We appreciate you. Shoe Queen, Kirsten, thanks for being part of the community. Keep on trying. Is this a new page? No, so this is actually the original page. We have 4 pages on TikTok. They took down this page, they took down the second page, and then legally they had to put it back up. So we had Kofi_43, which is the main page that you probably have seen us on before, and things of that. Hello again, Wise Guy. Hello, Sister Irena. How you doing? Black Steel, Damon, everybody. Sister Nadine. I think I said your name. If I didn't say your name, please forgive me. Big Brother Thomas. Hello, everybody. If I miss your name, charge it to my head, not to my heart. How you doing, Muriel? Thanks for being part of the community. Also, too, as a reminder, if you do like what you're hearing here, and at some point you want to join us again, because come Thursday, when we come back on Thursday in the Rising, we will be doing our live sessions again for the Rising back on Kofi_43. We're only over here because they said that we were giving hate speech. And so even though they will eventually have to overturn the decision, we're over here for now. So if you do like what you hear, look for you can follow us on all our channels. You can go on the YouTube channel. You can go on the podcast. You can go on Facebook, right? But if you're on TikTok specifically, try to see if you can follow Kofi_40, Kofi_42, Kofi_43, Kofi_44. I think it says 43 instead of 4, but you can find us in different places. Praise Yah. Alrighty. So thank you. We appreciate you. We honor you. What's happening here? I'm not sure what that even means. Obviously, I'm talking. How you doing, Sister Beverly? Welcome to everybody. We appreciate you. So if you'd like to turn to John chapter 3, while you're turning there, I want to introduce, today I'd like to feature Minister Anais Faith Jones. That's Anais, Faith, Faith, Jones, Jones. She has a podcast that she does great work in and does a lot of classes. A lot of you have even taken some of her classes. She's a prophetess. She also does a lot of stuff as far as writing the books. We also would encourage you to look for her YouTube channel to be able to support her there as well. Amen. So she's doing a lot of great work for the community, a lot of stuff behind the scenes. She leads us in the ministerial prayer. She leads us in Thursday Rising prayer. Many of you talk to her and things of that nature. She's continuing to get better and be healed. And as she's doing so, we're excited to be here with her to support her. So if you can support her in her business and her endeavors and things that she's doing, to once again bless the diaspora, bless SOC, bless Yahashar, and bless those that are grafted in, and make a change that this world can see that's beneficial as she continues to heal in her life. They feel free to do so. She also is very business minded. So if you'd like to be able to go to her for business, different business things about EIN, how to get your bank account going in order, she probably can even give you some help as far as that. So if that's something you might be interested in, feel free to go ahead and support her. Once again, you can find her at Anais, Anais, Faith Jones, FAITH, She's not on TikTok, at least not right now, although she had a huge TikTok platform the TikTok messed with her on. However, you can find her on YouTube. You can also email her if you're interested in more information at the same name that I just said, anaisfaithjones@gmail.com, ANAISFAITHJONES@gmail.com. I'm on. All right, let's get it. How you doing, Brother Charles? How you doing, Sister Yvette? All right. How you doing, servant of the King of Kings? So once again, we're going to John chapter 3. John chapter 3. That is where we shall be today. That's what I've been sent to give you today. And hopefully you're able to turn with us. If not, if you're listening, if you're just paying attention, whatever, obviously, if you're new to the Bible, if you want, if you're able to find Matthew, it's just Matthew, Mark, Luke, and then John. Right? If you go, you see the book of Acts, or you see the book of Romans, or First Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, something like that, you've gone a little too far, right? But you're looking for John chapter 3, and we are going to start at, matter of fact, we're going to do John chapter 3. We'll go to John chapter 3. We're going to read verses 1 through 17. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. How you doing, Sahara? John chapter 3, verses 1 through 17. How you doing, Sister Mignon? John chapter 3, verses 1 through 17. Thanks for being part of the community, serving the Kingdom's Kings. John chapter 3, verses 1 through 17. And if you have it, once again, if you can reference the word in some way, obviously be safe. If you're doing something with your family, if you're on the road, of course, if you're at your job, of course, do what you got to do. If you are able to, we ask that you reference the word, even if it's being quiet or just standing a little, or being able to listen more, or if you're able to, if you can stand with us, we invite you to do so at this point. All right. John chapter 3, verses 1 through 17. It reads as follows. It says, there was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of Yehovah, of Judah, of the Jews, right? The same came to Yehoshua by night and said unto him, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher come from Elohim. For no man can do these miracles that thou doest, except Elohim be with him. Yahushua answered and said unto him, verily, verily, truly, truly, Amat, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of Elohim. Catch that now. Except man be born again, what? He cannot see. Okay. All right. Watch that. Right. He cannot see the kingdom Radah Elohim. Nicodemus saith unto him, how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? Yahushua answered, truly, truly, verily, verily, Amat, Amat, I say unto thee, except Adam, except a man be born of water and of Ravak and of spirit, he cannot enter into Radah Elohim, the kingdom of Elohim. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is spirit. Marvel not, don't be surprised, marvel not that I said unto thee, ye must be born again. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh, and whither it goeth. So is everyone that is born of the Spirit. Nicodemus answered and said unto him, how can these things be? Yahushua answered and said unto him, art thou a master of Israel? Aren't you a teacher? Aren't you in charge? Aren't you supposed to know this? Aren't thou a master and knowest and is not intimate and knowest not these things? Verily, verily, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know and testify that we have seen. Now remember, he's making a distinction because remember, John chapter 3, verse 3, he says specifically, if you are not born again, you cannot see the kingdom, right? But here we are, John chapter 3 and verse 11, he says, truly, truly, I say unto thee, we speak, we are in the kingdom, we speak that we do know and testify that we have seen, we can see it. And ye receive not our witness, you receive not what we're telling you that we have seen. Verse 12, if I have told you earthly things and you believe not, right? How should you believe if I tell you of heavenly things? If you can't get some of the stuff I'm trying to tell you as far as natural law, how could you receive kingdom law? How could you receive universal law? How could you receive spiritual law? And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven. And Moses lifted up the serpent, and as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. We must see him so we can see the kingdom. He's the door, right? That whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. For Elohim so loved the world, the system, the cosmos, his system, right? That he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For Elohim sent not his son into the world to condemn the world. He didn't send Yahashua in here to condemn the world or his system that he wants to be put in place, right? To those who can come out of this wicked system and come into his system, but that the world, the system, the people that are in the system through him might be saved, or he can put his system in place and we might be saved. I've just read and kind of explained John chapter 3, verses 1 through 17. May you have a blessing to the readers, the hearers, and those who execute his most holy and righteous savar, his word. Aman. If you're standing, you may be seated in the presence of Yah. Thank you so much for reading that with us. We're excited to get into today's word. We're talking about this series called Babylonian Benefactors. Today, the theme, if you will, for today, simply put, is IQ manifests into EQ. IQ manifests into EQ. What we say again? IQ manifests into EQ. There's a lot of talk about EQ nowadays, isn't there? Some people never even heard about EQ, but there's a lot of talk about EQ nowadays. Emotional quotient. But you can't have proper EQ, use your emotions properly, without proper IQ, which is your intelligence quotient. Amen. Knowledge and the wisdom, right? How you doing, Jay? Uh-oh. Okay. It's going to be very difficult for people. And I'm sorry if there's somebody, Shine's mentor or somebody like that who's trying to come on with this. I don't really know you or know what it is. So if you want to introduce yourself, feel free, and then maybe we can have you come on. But or at least, tell me what's up. But IQ coming into EQ. How you doing, Dennis? How you doing, Sherry? I missed some people coming on here. I think I said hello, Sage. I'm not sure if I did. How you doing, Tahiti? Zihis. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Thank you for being part of the community. Sorry if I'm butchered it. How you doing, Brother Henry? How you doing, Goat? Okay, thank you for being part of the community. Appreciate you. How you doing, Emmanuel? If I didn't say so earlier, we appreciate everybody coming on. If I missed your name on any of these platforms, by the way, charge it to my head, not to my heart. We appreciate you, whether you're on the podcast, whether you're coming up from Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on TikTok. We appreciate you. All right. So IQ manifests into EQ. Right now, I'm going to work a little bit backwards in this because I could probably talk about IQ first. However, EQ is a very confusing thing because a lot of people don't even know what EQ really is. Now, emotional quotient, if we're just going to be honest, matter of fact, let's just do something real simple. If technology works real quick, might be the only thing that I don't have as far as like being able to go straight to in my memory. It's a noun. We're talking about mathematics, and it's a result obtained by dividing one quantity by another, or it is a degree or amount of specified quality or characteristic. So in other words, quotient is somebody who's put together a formula to be able to say, this is what you are. Somebody's put together a mathematical equation to say, if you go through this process, we can tell what the quotient is, what the sum is, or what the result is, what the character is, what the specified quality, the specified character is. And we're very big on character because we're very big on culture. So we're going to talk about quotient. I just want to put that out there, that quotient is you're going through somebody's mathematical equation, if you will, to be able to say that you have a certain amount of something. And for IQ and EQ, because today we're talking about, we want to come out, remember, we're talking about the series is called Babylonian Benefactors that we've been on. And we want to make it a point to show people and tell people. And by the way, if you're joining us for the first time, we record all these on our YouTube channel, so you can feel free. We also record parts of this on our podcast. We have some of this recorded on Facebook as well. So you can always go to those different platforms to be able to catch what we're talking about. Amen. Right. But your IQ, right? Your IQ and your EQ, right, are both going to be things that are sums of some kind of formula. Now, here's the part that they don't tell you about IQ or EQ. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. 3LLE. Is it L58? LE58? I'm not sure. But thanks for being on, right? And being part of the community. One of the things they won't tell you about this is that it's a quotient. What is a quotient? Once again, it is a what? It is a sum of things. It is a formula they've used to be able to get a result, to say this is the character. This is what we say is the sum, right? Okay, L. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Thank you. So when you're dealing with any IQ or EQ, you must comprehend it comes from somebody's culture. right? I just want to throw that out there first. We'll go deeper into it, right? We'll try to go as long as we can today. I don't really have stuff to charge up our devices today, so normally Sundays we would go really, really long, but not sure if we'll be able. Some of you'll think we go really, really long anyways, because we go hours anyways, but we won't go as long on Sundays as we normally do. But your IQ and your EQ, they always come out of somebody's culture, but your EQ, your emotional quotient, is going to manifest from your IQ, your intelligence quotients, your intellectual, your intel. How much information? The information that you're given, IQ, right, is going to inform your EQ, how your emotional character, right? How I use contextual facts, not just context by itself, not just facts by itself, but contextual facts will ultimately determine how I use my emotional quotient, right? How I treat others, how I get over things, how am able to deal with triggers. For example, somebody will tell you, "Oh yeah, that triggers me. That triggers me," and we should be very careful. That's why I even say some things. Trigger warning. This for I'll tell people this for educational purposes only. I'll make sure people comprehend. Hey, we're about to go into something that's kind of crazy. You might want to turn away. If you got babies listening, you might want to have them go somewhere else, because I recognize certain things trigger things, or there's certain things that we shouldn't be just randomly not thinking about how others feel about things, because how you feel is how you feel. But the flip side is that sometimes you have to realize some of the stuff we give you should be treated as um, feckless. In other words, we don't necessarily have to let our emotions reign over us for certain things that we're going over. See, if you're not careful, you will you will allow a trigger to stop you from learning. If you're not careful, you allow a trigger to stop you from loving people or being loved. Right? You can be in a relationship with somebody who is a new relationship, so to speak, and you start getting afraid because they start acting what you call similar to somebody else who hurt your heart a long time ago. But maybe somebody had bad intent when they did something to you, right? So you have this intelligence, you have this thing in your mind that says, man, somebody really did me wrong last time when I used to let them speak certain things into my life. So here comes somebody else now who has proper EQ and actually loves you and wants you to be greater and wants you to be more positive and wants you to go into the power that you've been created to go through life with. And instead of listening to them, what do? You start, because of the IQ, the intelligence that you have, that says that this person must be wrong. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it looks like the thing. It has the shape of it. It has the shadow. It's dark. You can't see what it is, but when you look at it, it looks similar to something you've been through. And so you say, ooh, I'm not going to give that person the chance to be able to speak to me. So your EQ now is messed up to where now somebody who might love you can't be given a chance. But see, you don't have proper IQ. You have the IQ to say, well, look out for it, but you don't have the IQ to say, well, what makes it trustworthy? You catching me? Right? Your IQ ultimately is going to determine your EQ. The intel that I have is going to ultimately inform the EQ that I have. The intel is going to inform what we call my emotional state. Come on, somebody. This is something that's real. We don't get told this that often. We don't get told this. We don't have constructive and harmonious conversation. We don't even know who is worthy of having a harmonious and constructive conversation. See, if y'all want to talk construction with somebody, if somebody doesn't even know how blueprints work, then we can't really talk about construction so much, right? If I want to talk construction, but you don't know about a cornerstone, then we're going to have a problem. If we want to talk about construction, but you're not dealing with the foundation being cracked, the building cannot stand. If we want to talk about construction, but you don't have a hard hat, or you want to talk about construction, but you don't know about permits, right? If you want to talk construction, but you don't know law, we're going to have a lot of issues being constructive in a construction conversation, right? But you have to have that intel before we can start talking about the emotional. So I just want to put that out there. And it's always based off of culture. Every IQ test that exists is based off of culture. Do you not know? Watch this. I will say everybody in here, right? I'm going to say this. Somebody's going to be like, no, 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 that's not true. But see, this is why it's cultural. Everybody who's listening to me right now, not because you're listening to me, but everybody who is listening to me, right? Because somebody will try to twist my words. How you doing, Brother Ali? How you doing, Brother Jermaine, if I didn't say so already? Everybody who is listening to me, I want you to hear this. Whether you're watching live, listening live, watching later on, listening later on. Everybody listening to me has a high IQ. Somebody says, well, I didn't do well on the IQ test. An IQ test is based off of culture. Watch this. Do you know how IQ tests work? The IQ tests work on this is how we live, and if you do what we do or you do what we say, then you are described as intelligent. That's how that works. Everybody's IQ test is based off of their culture and what they want. If you take certain tests to get into a certain school, they're saying in our school, our culture is if you do these things, you can get into our school. And that's why some of you start now, you guys, before these babies are even born, you're already thinking, I'm going to pay money for them to go to that preschool and then to go to this preschool and then to go to this kindergarten, right? And then to go to this first grade and then to go to this when they get to fourth grade and then to go to this private school and I'm gonna get them in this and that and I'm gonna have them in this program because I want them to go to this college. And by the time that they have become adults, that school might not even be the top school, but you've trained them up for a culture that could change at any time because you're not into an eternal thing, you're into a temporary thing. And so you're training up a child not in the way that they should go, you're training up a child and what's now but might not even be present later on. This is how IQ tests work. You can have an IQ test. Let's say somebody on an IQ test, yeah, it's indoctrination. And by the way, I'm not mad at indoctrination. Doctrine just means a set of belief that people uphold. So if you are kind to people, there's a doctrine of kindness by definition, right? But we have the wrong indoctrination. I'm with you on that. Yeah, you said yes. That yeah, went through all that. So glad, yeah, to homeschool. But ultimately, watch this. If there's IQ tests out there to where somebody might say, or there might be a question on there, you have to write in an answer. This is what the question might be. You ready? Here's a question. Here's the question. How do you use a paperclip? You might not even know how that works. Watch this. Watch this. This is a legit question. This is something that you might find on some IQ test. They might ask you something like, "How do you use a paperclip?" What would your answer be? I'll go ahead, wait in the chat just for a few seconds. Just put something in there. What would your answer be? It's a weird question, isn't it? But what would your answer be? How do you use a paperclip? This is an IQ test. I want to show you how they're thinking on these IQ tests. You think an IQ test is just like black or white? Nuh-uh. This is a culture. They're trying to see how you think. Do you think like us? How do you use it? How do you use a paperclip? Right? Just I just want to put this out. How do you use a paperclip? Okay, you use it to keep papers together. All right. How else would you use a paperclip? To bind papers together? All right. So far we're in agreement. Anybody else? How do you use a paperclip? Use the whole papers together so they don't fall apart. Okay, so we're pretty much in agreement that a paperclip is used to clip papers together. And we were proud that is that your final answer? You need a lifeline? Need to call somebody real quick, text them real quick? No, right? We would agree, right? Final answer. How to use a paperclip. Watch this. Certain IQ set that when they asked that on the IQ test, they would say, okay, that's like a average or maybe even below average answer. That's what they would say. Up, see, now somebody's going somewhere else, but they would like that answer, Roxanne, right? Watch this. See, so paper binds, it could clear the ear, so you might use it like a Q-tip. I mean, some people might say that's dangerous, but I ain't gonna lie, I've done stuff similar to that with my ears itching before. I've used some stuff I probably shouldn't use, but they would want answers like that, like, hey, you can use it as a Q-tip. Hey, you could uncoil it and tie it to other paper clips, and maybe you could use it like a belt. If you had to, and somebody was really doing harm to you, and you knew how to use a rubber band, you could take a rubber band. You can make sure that that you uncoil it a little bit, unsheath it a little bit, and then you take it and you pull it back and you can hit somebody, use it as a weapon. You could stick it in the sand if you were playing with your children, and you could attach a plastic bag or attach some cloth that wouldn't be too heavy for the paper clip, and you can make sure that the wind blows and it looks like it's a little sailboat, and you could put it on the top of a little castle that you guys or a little boat that you could carve out, or you could put it on top of a sand castle you could make. They would look for all these different answers, and the more things that you become, right? You could reset electronics with it, right? You could open up the side of your phone with it. You could do this, you could do that. They're looking for all these different things, right, for you to say. Now, does it mean because you didn't say all those things that you don't have a high IQ? You could use it as a compass, right? As part of a compass, right? It'd be part of it, but you can use it as compass, right? But does it mean that you have a bad IQ? No, it means as far as what they're looking for. All they were saying is, and watch this, I'm trying to tell you, intel basically just means information, but everybody's information is not the same. So that's why we need each other anyways. If you're going to be part of a community, you have intel that I do not, right? If you don't know how to put together a compass with a paperclip, somebody else does, right? Somebody else might get, might not really even work with papers. And if you don't work with papers that often, paperclips actually can be kind of cumbersome. You might need somebody to show you something that's simple as just putting it together, right? If you're somebody who doesn't know what you're doing, I would hope that you wouldn't put a paper clip in your ear. You see what I'm saying? But IQ, you all have a different part of the IQ. You have a different part of the puzzle. To focus on just one person's part of the puzzle is crazy. It means you don't want to build community. So you need to start focusing on culture, because culture is communal IQ. You see what I'm saying? Culture says this is how we all must think about this. Culture says this is what's demanded from all of us, so that all of us can be great, right? But they would say that in the IQ test, and another, right? But you have to recognize even how the IQ test came about. How did the IQ test start? Right? What's the first what you now call IQ test? A lot of people don't know, and I'm not talking about try to be crafty with it. I'm talking about specifically somebody who made a test to say where is your intelligence level at. That is something that I'm not saying there's never been tests with any other societies or anything like that to say where you are, but I want you to know where your specific, what you use as IQ test today, or what is used on you to say what your IQ is, right, was systematically put in place. It's systemic now. What you think of IQ and what people think of IQ, it only comes from one perspective, very Eurocentric. If I could be specific, it's very French. No shade to our French brethren. I'm just saying, very French. What do you mean? Well, the first IQ test was dealt with because the French are very classist. Before you get into the racist, they're very classist. Classism. Yeah, their psychology, right? But they use it for a specific reason. They have a lower class and they have middle class and they have higher class, just like everybody else. That's classism. That means that you're supposed to fit in to a certain class. In our culture, the lower class should be able to eat with the higher class. Matter of fact, the lower class should be able to come and get food from the higher class. It's a different culture, but in their culture, you separate classes. You still do it today. And you get mad. They use that against you as part of like the plantation mentality, that Willie Lynch syndrome that they still have with us, to where people are still using these things against each other. We're anti each other. We're this, we're that. Right. But back then, the French, who were the higher class, didn't like what we might call like country bumpkins. They still don't, to be honest with you. You go over there, like to Paris and then places further away, they're not necessarily messing with everybody like that. Right? If you don't speak a certain, matter of fact, if you do not speak a certain type of French, they don't mess with you like that, right? If you go to Swiss, they speak French that's closer to that, which is spoken in which is La Français, like in Paris, in actual France. But if you speak French and you more so speak it like those who are in Montreal, people in France, they don't like the way that people in Montreal speak, right? If you speak French and you're Haitian, they don't necessarily like the way you speak French. Matter of fact, they talk about patois, and patois just is a word that means slang. If you speak patois, then it's a word that means slang. You said nobody takes IQ test seriously until everybody does. IQ test is still used for colleges. IQ test is still used. It depends on your culture. And some people that are listening to me now, as much as we might say, well, nobody really uses IQ tests, there's some of you guys who still are thinking about IQ tests and have the jobs that you had and went to the colleges that you went to because supposedly your IQ did, even if we don't call it an IQ test, right? What's an ASVAB test? I took an ASVAB test. You go in the military, what is that, an ASVAB test? What does the ASVAB test do? It's supposed to tell you somebody's IQ. Right? I could have been on a nuclear sub, nuclear, whatever. I decided not to be one. I decided to do something different, but I tested really high. I didn't even try that hard because it's not really that hard to test, but they want to know if you can be molded. So they aren't really worried about you being really, really, really smart, but they do know certain people might not be able to handle certain things. So they give you a test, right? Right. If you've taken I'm sorry, I'm so far removed from this stuff, so forgive me. What a SAT test? That's an IQ test. If you're going to play football, especially if you're going to play quarterback, they give you a Wonderlic test. The Wonderlic test, come to find out, doesn't really matter as much as what people think. But they give you a Wonderlic test to see and stuff, and it'd be crazy stuff on there, and things like that. They sit you down in front of an owner. They have a list of questions. They say stuff including like, "Hey, we heard that your mama might have been prostituting herself," and blah blah, to test you to see what you're going to do and how you're going to react. Thank you, babe. LSAT, you got the MCAT, you got all these different tests. They have tests all the time. If you're going to be a project manager, you got to take the PMP exam. You got to study for months and months. Some people study for years. You got to take $500 to take that test, right? I worked for a business for a little bit, and the business, we taught phlebotomy, we taught obviously first aid, CPR. We taught surgical tech. We taught certain things as far as CNT, a little bit of CNA stuff. We taught a lot of doctors, and people came from different things, people from all walks of life, whatever. And we didn't get them, and we would teach them straight up. If you want to get this stuff, like some people go and try to become a nurse, and they be going to school for like, or let's say they try to become even a phlebotomist, and they try to go to school, and they go to school 2-3 years, stuff like that, paying thousands of dollars. We go, yo, you can pay for if you can pay us 2,000, we'll be able in 6 days to teach you phlebotomy. Why? Because you just need to know how to take the test. If you know how to stick somebody, right, and you know how to make sure that you can pass the test, people aren't concerned about your education. They want to know about your certification, but you still got to pass the test. Everything's going on for these tests. And all these different tests that they're giving, right, are things that are doing what? Are trying to say, this is what we feel the intelligence you should have is. In our culture, what we do, this is what we want. See, there's other people, other cultures. For example, somebody would look at another culture and say, why would you stab yourself to get healthy? Right? Like some people would say, why would you stab yourself to get healthy? Yeah, interviews in general. Thank you. Right. If you go for an interview, the interviewer, right? That's why you even go now. You go to all these different places just to learn how to interview. Why? Because the interview has become more of a test. Do you fall in line with this? And now it's become something where everybody's doing the same thing. Matter of fact, one of the reasons why SOC is not. I just found out that some of these schools have changed this, but the best schools in the world used to be the ones that were not accredited. The best schools in the world were actually considered to be the ones that were not accredited schools for the longest time. Why? Because an accreditation means that you have to fall in line with a certain IQ. And if you want a higher IQ, you can't be limited by saying that your IQ needs to be on the same level as everybody else. Okay, certified phlebotomist. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying the people that we train and people that still work in the field and people that came to get their stuff updated, because you got to update yourself from time to time, right? And I wasn't the person that necessarily taught phlebotomy. I taught some of the other classes. I was present at the stuff. I even sometimes volunteered to get stuck. Now I wouldn't do that anymore, right? Actually, and actually I never really did. I volunteered. It never happened to me. But regardless, right? Like I'm just telling you, the way the world works, that's what they're looking for, right? And we were doing stuff that was getting obviously people that could be certified in every state except for maybe two, which had certain things that you had to do extra, and we would send you somewhere else for the extra, right? Right. But we would, but within that thing, we would pay for everything, including when you pay the 2,000, you pay for everything, you pay for your test, all that stuff, and then you go. And then from there, what I was saying is why? Because yeah, you got to be tested, but then once you get tested, what happens, right? Once you pass the test, you might go to your site. Just like when I was in the military, we have something called NEC or maybe MOS. It's just a fancy term for our job. Once you get qualified for your job, you go to school and stuff. But then once you get to your duty station, what they're going to say? Well, it's nice that you learned it at your duty station, but this is actually how we do things here. And I know they taught you about this knot, Kofi, when you were in boot camp. But this is actually how we tie the knots over here, right? And I know you're not trying to be negative. I'm just saying, right? And so when you do that, right? So the same thing, like, hey, you might have learned how to stick somebody like this, but we don't use that gauge over here. We don't use that length, or we prefer everybody uses this. Or what about the butterfly stick? Or what about blah, right? Like there's different things when you go different places. So you might have learned that there, but once you get to your job, there's still OJT. So we focus on the certification, get you certified, make sure that you can do what you're supposed to do, make sure that you can do it properly, make sure you can pass that test. Once you pass that test, not just written, but also what you need to do in front of them as far as physically. Then when you get to your job, your duty station, they're going to tell you when you get over there, this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is how we want you to operate, right? This is what we're dealing with, right? So you're dealing with an IQ, you're dealing with somebody else's culture, somebody else's intelligence, or what they say the intel that they want is. And now it's looking like it's going to try to rain on us. I might have to move a little bit, y'all. I'm not sure. I don't like being in underneath trees like that, but I might have to move. I don't know. Y'all pray for us while we out here. I already prayed earlier, so I'm gonna just trust y'all. But y'all pray for us. I'm gonna put this over the device just in case we might need it. I don't want to get the devices rained on, right? But ultimately, what I'm trying to talk about is that intel. I'm just trying to put it together for you that you're going to have intel, right? If you go and you learn how to be a teacher, that's great and everything. Once you get your first class, is it everything? Is it going to be the same thing that you learned in school, right? I mean, it's nice that they taught you this. It's nice that they gave you this. It's nice that they told you, about this stuff. And by the way, what is the intel that they're even going off of? Yeah, I was thinking maybe go to the gazebo if I can make it. The gazebo, I'm actually kind of far away from it, but we might have to do a little salah moment. We'll see what happens. But right now we're all right. But just pray for us. We'd be led by the Spirit. If I gotta stop for a second and head over there, then y'all know why we stopped. Okay. But I promise you, if you can be patient with me, if you see me move, I promise you, I'll be right back with you guys. Am I? All right. But like we were saying, so we're dealing with the intel. The intel is coming from somebody's culture, right? That's ultimately what I'm trying to get us to see and to recognize and to agree with, right? That there's a culture that's telling you this is what you're supposed to do. This is why you're supposed to do that. And so you can learn the same thing. And then you can ask people to go to the same school, get the same exact grade, go in or end up working at different jobs, same qualification, but one job says we do it like this, one job says we do it like this, right? You can work in fast food. One job says, may I take your order? One job says, hey, how are you doing? One job says, it's a great day at Chick-fil-A, right? Same industry, but different culture. One job might say, we pay you $15 an hour here. That's why right? Because we make more money over here. One job says, hey, be satisfied with 7.25 an hour. You see what I'm saying? No apologies. I'm not talking to you. Like I said, we have many people on. We have different platforms on. We appreciate you. So thank you for being on. Right. And thank you for any questions, comments, concerns that you have. Don't feel like you can't make those. Right. I appreciate it. And thank you for being on. Really do. And thank you for giving your perspective. I can always learn. I hope it's not coming off as you're wrong. That's not my intent at all. So if it is, please forgive me for even making that a thing. Right. Um, but, but, but these are the things that we're talking about, right? The intel. Matter of fact, see, now that we've started getting into this, because once again, we have to make sure we comprehend the intel. The information is going to help. The IQ will always manifest into the EQ, right? Your IQ will always manifest into your EQ, right? Your IQ will always manifest into your EQ. The intel will always manifest into how you emotionally deal with things or even emotionally respond. Okay, so now let's look up some terms real quick. I came bearing gifts today. Let us come and look up some things real quick together. I hope I go in order. Please forgive me. I can't see until it pops up on the screen exactly what you're going to see. But let's look up this term emotion. Matter of fact, I might leave it on the screen. I apologize. Let's take a quick break. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm gonna be obedient. My wife gave a suggestion. I'm sitting out here trying to just make it work. She's intuition or led by the spirit correctly. So I'm going to move before it really starts to pick up on this rain over here. Okay. So I'm gonna leave this up on the screen. If you want to take, I apologize because of the length that I have to go. It's probably gonna be like 5 minutes. So if you want to take a 5 minute break, I see 9 o'clock on my time. So hopefully by 9:05 we'll be starting again. Okay. So I'm gonna just leave the screen up for you guys real quick, and you guys can see what I'm seeing. And then I'm gonna go ahead and try and get underneath some shelter before it's too late and I mess up these devices. Am I? Am I? All right. We'll be right back. All right, y'all can come and take a walk with me. Y'all get to see what I'm seeing. When we get over there, we're going to have to set everything back up. Thank you for your patience. Right, but that emotion, I guess you guys get a chance to have some conversation that everybody else gonna have with me. But that emotion is something else, you know. And we don't think about the emotional core or the IQ, which leads to the emotion. Now we're about to get into emotion, and you guys gonna hear me repeat myself a little bit once we get everybody else back with us. But emotion is a difficult conversation to have for many, because a lot of people think that emotion is something that it's not. Right? It's very difficult to speak on the emotional with a lot of us because we are so emotional, so to speak. But emotion is going to be a very difficult conversation. Emotion is not what we think it to be. Emotion is a manifestation of something else, right? So that's becomes very difficult to speak on emotion for the proper perspective, because a lot of us are talking about it from a perspective that's really, a man-made thought process. Because once again, remember, we're talking about IQ is culture. You see? So IQ is culture. So if we're talking about these things, we have to be honest and realize the only IQ that we're dealing with as far as nowadays is we're dealing with a Babylonian IQ. We're talking about the Babylonian benefactor. And in speaking about the Babylonian benefactor, we have to realize and recognize the Babylonian, we have to recognize and realize that the Babylonian benefactor is not necessarily doing things for you to be at your greatest. They're most certainly not trying to do things to make sure that the kingdom is recognized. They're doing things, right, to ensure that you operate in a different form of thought process and even theology, right? So our mindset is we're part of a theonomy, right? There's not an autonomy, right? Something's automatic. We're not dealing with their system where you govern yourself and everybody governs themselves. That is a false sense of reality. It's a druid type mentality, because even the druids had people that ruled over others, but they'll tell you the druids were trying to get to an autonomy, or what did he call it? What's that word that they use? When everybody's chill, it's all peaceful, everybody does for themselves, there's no ruler, there's no leadership. What is that word I'm looking for? I can't remember the word, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you do. Where they're trying to tell you and I that everybody should just be in charge of themselves. And this is a fallacy. This is lunacy. It's not reality. It's not truth, right? You're not doing these things within yourself. There's a whole community that's affected. There's a whole people that are affected, right? So this stuff is not an autonomy. There's got to be some governance. There's got to be some reasoning. There has to be a standard, and somebody sets a standard. Standards are not something that come out of thin air. They are something that comes from people being in place. But all right, TikTok, we're back. I think we walked everything over. Had to make sure we got all our stuff over here, so I apologize. Okay, if you can hear me, we're back. We're back. Thank you for your patience. I know we lost a lot of people, but it is what it is. I comprehend you didn't come here for silence and look at the screen. So thank you guys who hung in there with us. We appreciate you. So if we look at this, we're gonna look at this term emotion. We're gonna look at these definitions. Like I said, I come bearing gifts. And forgive me as I'm setting up, as I'm talking, but come bearing gifts today, and some gifts and some definitions. So we'll look at some worldly definitions as well. Not saying that worldly definitions can't be looked at all. Matter of fact, you should probably look up some worldly definitions. If you're using Babylonian IQ, you should see what they're doing. But thank you, everybody. We are back now on all platforms. Thank you for being patient on the podcast. Those coming over from Facebook, those who are on YouTube, those who are on TikTok, we appreciate you. And so, sorry, give me a second. So, emotion. This is dictionary, or this definition you could just Google, right? So this is something that most people would agree on, right? This is what most people are using coming out of, and we have several different definitions because we really got to break this word down and this terminology down, right? So, what is emotion? Emotion is what? What is emotion? Emotion is a noun. It's a person. So a person can be emotion or can have emotion. It is a place. You can be in a place that is emotional. It is also a thing. Emotion is something that can be wielded. It can be used. It can be executed. Right? Okay. So what is emotion? How you doing, Sister Michelle? How you doing, Urban Royalty, and everybody who's coming on? If I missed you, if you came on while I was walking, Abaya, thanks for being on. Right. So what is the definition of emotion? The definition of emotion, at least what their definition is, what, according to their IQ, is emotion is a natural, instinctive state of mind. Time out. Right. So according to them, emotion must deal with what? Your nature. Right. We're just reading what it says. Right. Emotion is what? What did they say? Emotion is a natural. This is what they're telling us. Emotion, if you're dealing with emotion is a natural, instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others. IQ, the intelligence that you've been given from what? From the intel, the information that you're receiving from what? Your circumstances. The intel, the information you're receiving from your mood. The intel, the information you're receiving from your relationships with others is doing what? It is causing you to emote, to have this emotion, this thing, emotion, to become this person, this emotion, to become angry, to become sad, to become bitter, right? That you have become what you have been given. Somebody sowed information into you, and that caused you to act a certain way. Emotion, right? It is natural. This is a natural process. According to their definition, this is a natural process. If you receive certain things as far as IQ, as far as an intelligence, if you have certain information, you will emotionally respond a certain way. Come on, somebody, right? If I receive certain information, if watch this, what was your first time as a child, right, that you experienced? Watch this, and I'm being so serious here. I'm not trying to trick anybody. What was your first time that you experienced anger as a child? And I'm not even talking about give me a testimony, so you ain't got to worry about all that. Praise God. I'm talking about legit, like as far as in the human experience, every child experiences anger at the same time. What's the first time you think that a child experiences anger? How you doing, Sister Monica? What's the first time that you think that a child experiences anger? What's the first time in your life that you experienced anger? Said still dealing with that one. Mm-hmm. See, we're gonna talk about this. What's the first time in your life that you experienced anger, though? Some would say at birth, right? Especially when the doctors are poking and prodding you. I would roll with that somewhat, but it's even before that. What's the first time that you experienced anger? Some people are going to think this is very existential or esoteric. I don't mean to be. I'm just giving truth. When you are hungry, okay, the first feeling of hunger. Watch this. You experienced anger in the womb, didn't you? You know, exactly. Thank you, babe. You're connected to your mother. Whatever your mother ate, you ate. Whatever your mother felt, you felt. Matter of fact, you could see certain electrical lights emanate from inside the womb. The first light that you saw was not when you were born. You actually see now it's not bright light. It's not to where it blinds you. And right. And at first you're feeling it before you see it, right? Obviously, if you don't have the ability, like, your ocular cavities and then your eyes to go within those cavities and stuff like that, you obviously have not developed certain things yet. But the first time you even see anger is inside the mother's womb. When she's angry and you see this is what happens to her body, and you see electric current go by and you feel something, right? That's like if a mother is scared. Have you ever thought about when you carried a child, you ever been scared that something jolted you, and then you had a feeling, and then you had a double feeling because you jolted and then the baby jolted inside of you. When you were like, what is this? The baby was like, what is this? Right. You experienced these things beforehand. There was intelligence being given. There was an IQ being developed. You didn't have to read a book for that. You know, when my father was not, you know, he always prayed over his food, things like that. He always made sure that we went to things to be spiritually fed. But you know, he was working 2.5 jobs, but also he was, you know, he was kind of one of those fathers, old school, you know, in our community. Like, hey, I'll pray, I'll make sure certain things, I'll honor God, but I'm not going to necessarily do this and that, whatever. But he never had to open up a scripture for me to know what hard work was. I saw him do that every day when he was sick and had kidney stones and stuff like that, and he was passing kidney stones and still going to work 2.5 jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like I saw it. He didn't have to open up the book of. Yeah, he didn't have to say, "Hey, you know, son, faith without works, you know, doesn't make any sense. There's no life to it." He just he just he just I saw that man work and still works, right? Only works one full-time job, 70 years old, but still works, right? Still working and working and working and working, right? But I saw it. I didn't have to. So, but the same way a baby sees it. But guess what? The baby is comprised of an X and a Y chromosome, which means that or X and an X chromosome, but of two different, you know, people coming together and becoming one. And when they become one, then the baby is born and starts to multiply. So two people become one. You're right. 1 + 1 = 1, but then the one starts to multiply, not to add. Right. At first, it looks like it's adding because it takes a little while, but one cell develops into two. But then after that, two develop into four, and four into eight, and eight into 16, 16 to 32, 32 to 64, 64 to 128, 128 to 256, 256 to 500 and 512, and whatever, right? 1,024, 2,048, whatever, right? And it just keeps going and going and going and going, right? They multiply, which means that the baby first experience with anger, that X chromosome, that Y chromosome, they already had experienced anger before. The baby it comprehends a lot of stuff, has a lot of emotional stuff already. It already has a lot of intel. You see? But if we were to go, before I go too much deeper, then let's just stay with the definitions that they've given us, right? Because people will say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't like that definition. You're just coming up, all right? Okay, let's go to the next definition. This is all stuff you could just Google, right? So let's see what this says. It says emotions. Forgive me. I'm trying to. It says emotions. Oh, now I can't read my screen. They make these screens so hard. Okay. Emotions are conscious mental reactions such as anger, fear, emotions are conscious mental reactions such as anger or fear, subjectively experienced as strong feelings, usually directed toward a specific object and typically accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes in the body. In other words, emotions are choices or based upon choices. Wait a minute. Let's read that again, because emotions are conscious mental reactions. Now we're dealing with a Greek thought process here, right? They're using Greco-Roman mindset when they're talking about emotions. So if they're using, so when they say these are emotions are conscious mental reactions, right? They would say if you were just reacting, they would call that your subconscious in their culture, right? We got to read it through culture. They're just talking through culture. Don't miss. They're trying. If you're not careful, the Babylonian benefactor is sowing Babylonian IQ and then trying to get you that Babylonian EQ, and then you're trying to figure out why is it that I got Babylonian IQ but I can't have kingdom EQ. I can't have a kingdom emotional response. I can't have a kingdom conversation. I have common sense. I have Babylonian sense, but I don't have kingdom sense. Right? They're telling you, even in their definition, they're telling you emotions are conscious mental reactions, such as anger or fear. In other words, they're telling you anger is a conscious reaction. I'm fully aware that I'm angry. Ooh. Now, I'm not saying that you, right? Remember, we talked about in the other last definition, this is a natural thing. So when I naturally become angry, I'm still aware now that it's happened. It might have happened subconsciously, some things triggered subconsciously, but now I am in a place to where what I'm having a natural, I comprehend this as a natural thing, and I can choose to stay in this emotion. It is subjectively experienced as strong feelings. It is what? It is subjectively experienced. And just in case somebody might be doubting, let me go ahead, because I don't have the definition for this word, but let's just go ahead and look it up. Let's look up the definition of subjective, just to make sure that we're on the same point, because somebody still might not believe what I'm saying. So I want you to hear what they say. I want you to hear what they say. This is their IQ talking. I'm trying to get you the spiritual IQ. I'm trying to get your spiritual IQ up and your spiritual EQ up. I'm trying to get your kingdom IQ up and your kingdom EQ up. I'm trying to get you out of that Babylonian IQ and EQ. And of course, now that I'm looking for that, of course, it's not working out. Can somebody do me a favor? Because it's raining and stuff here. Maybe that's why I'm having the signal issues. Maybe why I can't find anything. Oh, okay, I see it. It's finally coming up. All right, subjective. If it is subjective, it is what? This is what subjective means now. It is an adjective. This is describing. So it's subjectively experienced. What are they talking about is experience? Subjective emotion, subjective anger. Your anger is subjective. So they're describing anger. Anger is the noun. So what is the description of said noun, right? This is a subjective thing. So anger is, right, these emotions such as anger or fear are subjectively experienced. What does that mean? It means it is based on or influenced by personal feelings, taste, or opinions. That's what subjective is. It's subjective to. If you're talking about that these are things that are subjective to something, you're saying that it's based on what? Your or influenced by what? Your personal feelings. I feel a certain way, and so I'm making a conscious decision to stay in a strong place of anger. How you doing, Miss Hibiscus? This is what it's saying. Did you catch that? I'm making I've something happened in my life. How you doing, WIT? I've gone through something major. I know what it is. I recognize that now I become angry. I can be angry. The Bible says it like this: be angry and sin not. I have a choice to not allow my anger to let me do something that's going to put me behind bars for years. Like if I had to protect my family, that's one thing. If somebody's trying to take my child's life, but somebody does something to my child, yeah, I might respond to it, but I have a chance, right? Because it's right because of my emotion. This is another definition of emotion. Now, this is from American Psychological Association. Now, this is their definition. I have a choice. These emotions are conscious. This is according to them. This is according to their IQ, right? Emotions are conscious mental reactions, such as anger or fear, subjectively experienced as strong feelings, usually directed toward a specific object. Now, that object might be a person, but towards a specific object, right? You ever stub your toe on the door and then slam the door, right? You ever stubbed your toe on a tree and then like got angry at the tree and kicked the tree? See, that's your anger leading you to do something, right? You have a decision. You know that if you kick the tree, it's going to hurt your foot. You know that you just got sandals on, and if you kick the tree and your toes are exposed, it's probably going to hurt. But you still kick the tree. When you kick the tree, then you look crazy, and then you sit there and you say, "Man, I don't realize. I don't know why all this stuff is here. I don't know why my foot is hurting." No. You know why your foot is hurting. You were angry, and you made a conscious decision based on that anger. Right? That's the way that works. You were angry, and you made a conscious decision. This is according to their IQ. This is what they would call IQ, intellectual quotient, all that stuff. According to their IQ, they would say that if you, right, anger, right, is an emotion, but according to them, this is according to American Psychological Association. So if you don't like me saying it, listen to the people that you say are supposed to set the standard for you. They will tell you that emotions are conscious mental reactions. If I'm angry, I've decided. You said you stub your toes on toys, you throw them in the trash. Yeah, right. I'm angry, so I decided to be, right. I might have gotten to a place of anger, right? Something got me there to where everything in me rose up. Physical things happened. Synapses fired, right? Certain things triggered. My heart rate started beating, this and that or whatever. I see that I'm angry now, or I'm at the place of anger. I can enter into it, or I can stay outside of it. I can close the door. Okay. Right? That's right there. Let's keep on reading. This is their IQ. This is what they say. Intellectual quotient, right? Watch this. Emotions. This is what they say emotions are. Let's read what they tell us emotions are, right? Somebody else now. This is DakotaFamilyServices.org. So this is somebody who does stuff for families. This is somebody who studies how families operate. Then if families need help, they probably give them shelter, things of that nature. You said you don't believe that you make conscious decisions in anger, not sober-minded. Exactly, right? So if we go into anger, we've made a sober, well, the way they're saying it, is like this. I don't know if we're not going to 100% agree on it, but I'm just telling you what they say. We're going to go through this a little longer, obviously. But what they're trying to tell us here is that if you are angry, right? If I'm angry and I decide, catch this now, if I'm angry and I make a decision, right? Or if I'm getting to a place of anger, I'm sober minded enough still to know I'm getting angry. Like now, if I decide to go into it when I'm angry, I'm not sober minded, right? I'm sober minded when I realize certain things are starting to pop up in me, or when I get a certain word. That's why even if I give somebody news, when you give somebody news, sometimes you say, you might want to sit down. Hey, are you able to take this? Hey, I know this is going to be there. I need you to stay calm when I tell you this. Why are you telling the person that? Because you're telling the person, I know this is going to get you to a place that could cause you to go into anger. I want you to choose not to go there, right? See, I have the intelligence, the IQ, to recognize that what you might get to a place where this is going to make you really upset. So I know since you might get there, I'm speaking with IQ, with intelligence in this, to recognize that, hey, I know you, I have a relationship with you. And that's something that we haven't talked about, that part of it. But because of my relationship with you, I recognize I have the intelligence to recognize, to know you, to say, if I'm not careful, this might take you to another place. Right. So I need to make sure before we even deal with your EQ, your emotions, I'm dealing out of intelligence. I recognize this in you. Right. Sometimes it even works in reverse. Hey, you trying to be strong. You trying to be somebody who never cries. You're trying to be this. You're trying to be that. Okay. Well, I recognize that might be what you're trying to do, but that might not be what's righteous or the righteous thing for you to do. Right. So since that's not a righteous thing for you to do, right, you might need to let it go. You might need to mourn so that joy comes through your mourning. Right. So I might need to allow you to go ahead and get to a place, and intelligence shows me, right, not to manipulate you, but to put it on the table and give you an opportunity to walk into some sadness real quick, to go ahead and get that out of you, so that now that you've gotten that out of you, you can get back to a place, of being happy. You can still be joyful in your tears, but I might need to help you to get to that place to where you can release. And we might need to sit in that for a little bit, and I know it's uncomfortable, and I know you don't do it around somebody else, and I know you don't show your emotion like that, but you might need to do it today because it might bless you tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? Right? That's intelligence. I need to bring you to a place to make this conscious decision. But let's go ahead and get back to what they're trying to tell us here. So it says here, while emotions start as sensations in the body, feelings, now this is a little off from our culture, but nevertheless, let's just look at what they say, because they still might get to the same, they might be getting to the same place through different wording, but so far we're seeing that even they would admit to you that emotions are a little different than what we think they are. So it's, while emotions start as sensations in the body, feelings are generated from our thoughts and our thoughts about those emotions. And by the way, this is something we talk about, right? Culture to habits. Culture informs your belief. Belief informs your emotions. Emotions inform your feelings. Feelings inform your mood. Mood gives you your effort or energy. Your effort or energy informs your habits, which should be nothing more than you reestablishing your culture, so that you might be able to do the same thing. Culture to habits. I'm gonna say that 2 more times. Culture informs your what? Your belief. Your beliefs inform your what? Your emotions. Your emotions inform your what? Your feelings. Your feelings inform your what? Your mood. Your mood informs what effort or energy you're going to put into something. Your effort or energy is going to be what helps you to develop your habits. I'm going to say it one more again, right? They're saying the same thing. We reading the same thing. People who were saying for so long, I remember people getting upset when we started introducing that. I don't agree with that. And feelings and emotions are the same thing, not in according to your culture. Once again, your culture informs your belief. Your belief informs your emotions. Your emotions inform your feelings. Your feelings inform your mood. Your mood informs your effort or energy. Right? If you're in a mood, you got more energy, don't you? If you're in a mood, you have less energy, do you not? Right? And then after my mood, now I get to a place of what? Habit. I'm sorry, my effort or energy. Then I put that in. And if I keep putting it in, then that can become what we call a habit. When it becomes a habit, it becomes something that can become what? A tradition or part of a culture. So our traditions or our habits should be coming from something that is what? Culture, belief, emotion, feeling, mood, effort, energy, habits. That's what we're dealing with. That's all we're dealing with, right? But let's get back to reading this. So while emotions start as sensations in the body, feelings are generated from our thoughts about those emotions. Or in other words, feelings are how we interpret emotions and let them sink in. We use the word feel for both physical and emotional state. I'll try to say it one more time, right? Right. I'll try to say it one more again if I can, right? Culture, number one. Number one is what? Culture, right? What's number two? Culture is number one. Number two is belief. What you believe comes from the culture you're in. People get frustrated, they get upset, they want to tell you all this stuff. Oh, no, no, no. I'm an individual. The only thing that you believe came from a culture, right? Everybody has a culture. When they say, oh, we found this boy and he was raised by wolves, which, by the way, who knows if that was true or not. But they say, we found this boy, he's raised by wolves. And when he was raised by wolves, or he was raised by apes and blah, 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 and he acted like an animal, that still is a culture. They put cultures in petri dish, do they not? Even bacteria has culture. So culture informs belief, and belief's going to inform emotion. Your EQ is based off of your IQ. You've gotten intelligence. Your belief is in the intelligence. The culture gave you the intel or the intelligence. And so now you have an emotional response. Your EQ is based off your IQ. So culture informs belief, and belief informs your emotion. Right? Now, after emotion, what do you have left? Right now, after emotion, what do you have left? What's next after emotion? Emotion, it influences your feelings. You said, do you think that belief is the same as worldview? Your worldview comes to your belief, I would say, but it comes from a culture, right? Yeah, I mean, they're one and the same. Yeah. So, but your worldview comes from a culture, right? Like there's somebody that looks at a woman. Okay, there's somebody that looks at a woman that's naked um, in a protest, right? And it's saying she's doing so to be able to say that's for women's liberation. They're showing that women should be free. Somebody's culture says applaud that. And even though I wouldn't necessarily applaud it, I could see why they would applaud that. And I say, oh, okay, that's their thing. I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to look at it, but okay, right? There's somebody else in their culture who sees a woman naked during a dance. That's just something they do in their branch, in their people. They do their dance, and when they do their dance like that, there's no problem. Matter of fact, and there's some people who in their culture they don't show their bare breasts until they do their dance that goes back when they used to show their bare breasts. So you go to Zulu land, and women who are going to show their bare breasts, it's not something that is looked down upon. It might not be your culture, but it's theirs, right? So when they'll get out there, and if the men have nothing on their top, then the women have nothing on their top, and it's not something where the men start getting to try and touch the women inappropriately, or they start looking at each other and salivating, or they're trying their best to have sex with the girl. No, like that's just something they do, right? It's cultural. It's their culture. So there's still places in Africa where they have virgins that do virgin dances to prove, right? And they'll try to kick their leg up. If you've ever seen it, they'll kick their leg up and it comes down, right? They kick their leg up to show, those things. And it's a way of like investigating and proving, like that the hymen is still in place and a lot of stuff like that. Now, somebody would be like, whoa, that's total blah, 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 whatever. You shouldn't be doing that. And I would personally probably, I would agree with you. But if I went over there and saw it, I would try to get away from it probably. I wouldn't want to necessarily stick around and study it and stuff, but I would try to go away and be like, hey, that's not my culture. That's what they do. Right? I mean, that's their way of trying to say that virginity is something that's important. Now, are there some things that kind of go along with that? If you study those cultures that you might not necessarily like, that actually, is being kind of done to those sisters in that society, and the families are kind of using that sometimes to barter and try to make money off of it, and they're kind of prostituting some of these girls and some of the stuff. There might be some things you don't know about that, but as far as the original intent of it, like it's something that does their culture. If people use it for different things, that's different, right? Or the same thing Sister Monica was talking about. There's some places to where um, she not sexy unless she's showing her body, including if she's wearing something skin tight, this and that. There's somewhere else in the culture to where somebody sees a girl or a woman or a wife and they see her and she shows her ankle, and everybody like, ooh, she showed her ankle. You know what I'm saying? There's some place where a woman shows her eyes, and if a woman would actually flip her mask up or something like that, and somebody goes, ooh, that was salacious. So culture informs everything. Your worldview is coming through your cultural prism, right? Right. But so yeah, your worldview is informed by something. Some of the reason why you don't like Christmas is because you now are in a culture that says that you've been shown biblically you don't celebrate Christmas. Some of you don't like Christmas because it never made sense. Some of you don't like Christmas because you once used to be witches. You know what Christmas is about, and now you don't do it. Some of you don't like Christmas because it never made sense that Santa Claus was real even when you were 2 years old. Some of you don't like the Tooth Fairy because you never believed in the Tooth Fairy. Some of you love the Tooth Fairy and love the Easter Bunny and love Christmas, even if you know that it's not true, because that's what your parents showed you. Whatever the case might be, your culture is going to affect your belief. And your belief now affects your emotion, your emotional response. Somebody says, that's not right, what you're doing. And you immediately flip out. I can't believe you would say that, blah, blah, because somebody's attacking your culture. And when they attack your culture, they attack your belief, and you get emotional about it. Or there's some things, watch this. This happened to me the other day. Can I keep it a buck? This might have been yesterday. I'm not even gonna hold you. On Shabbat, right? This happened to me in the middle of me doing all that Shabbat stuff yesterday and all the different meetings we had and the watch party and everything. This happened to me yesterday. I was watching something and there was a guy, I think it's Meek Mill, and Meek Mill was on Capone's podcast. Podcast is picking up steam, and I saw like a little short of it. And he was talking about a verse that I didn't even know about from, oh my greatness, forgive me, y'all, I'm forgetting his name. Who's the guy? Who's the cat, the New York cat that had that song, Black Rob? Black Rob, that song, everything was like, whoa, right? If you remember that, like, whoa, was like every other word. That's like his biggest claim to fame as far as music tracks that he put out, but considered to be a very great MC, right? And so I went and listened to the song. The guy was talking about, man, that Monopoly verse that he did on his first album and yada, yada, yada. So I went back and I listened to the Monopoly verse, and I immediately, I'm just going to be honest with you, it clicked back to where part of me was like, I don't even care what he says, right? He's going to say some stuff he's saying some stuff that's really wrong and really raunchy. And then he starts putting it like on the Monopoly board, and he starts rhyming, but he starts rhyming literally around a Monopoly board, and he's talking about how he's better than everybody else. And towards the end of it, it's not as great as the first half of the verse. But when I listened to it, I rewound it like 2 or 3 times. I was sitting in the car, I rewound it like 2, 3 times, and then by the end, I said, "Okay, devil." I was like, I can't do it anymore. I was like, I got to separate from you. I turned it off. But there was a time where because of what? It solicited an emotional response because I had a little bit of that. I still have a little bit of that culture in me. And that culture popped up when the music started playing. And even though I got beliefs that say against it, I also had some beliefs that are like, yo, man, this, even if you don't like what he's saying, them is bars, bro. Right? I started listening to the bars and I started having an emotional response to the point I started leaning back in the car and I was like, starting to go like, what did he just say? Right? Like, what did he just say? Y'all cats go around, you trying to get on the board like go. Yeah, but you ain't even got enough money to go. But you breaking the rules, trying to go past, sitting there talking about by chance. He was talking about the community. He was talking about, shoot, if you want to come and try to steal from my community chest, that might get you blown in your chest. I kind of already knew he was going there, but I was like, okay. But it was wild lyrics. But part of me went, what? Because I had a culture that I was part of for a hot second. Right, that culture influenced my beliefs enough to where I still have an emotional response, and then I started to feel the music, and it put me in a mood to where now my habits that I've been developing, they started to go to the side, because in that second, my habits had to go back to something else. But I had to cut it off. I said, okay, devil, because I started playing it over and over again. I started making it a tradition, a habit. It was becoming a habit. I had to say, okay, I can't listen to this anymore today. I was like, I really wanted to learn it, and I was like, no, I can't learn this. I was like, I went in it, this and that. Let me repent. Let me turn away from it. Let me just get back to what I got to do. I still got stuff I got to do today. I still got to help people with training. I still got to make some phone calls. I still got to make sure women's meetings going to run smoothly and stuff like that. I still got to be in position to make sure that I do some things in the house. I got to be there to you know what I'm saying? But it's a culture thing, right? I appreciate, yeah, we appreciate, different things that people, what people call genius and stuff, and and all these different things or whatever. I'm not saying we cannot. I'm just saying I had to be careful. Yeah, I don't do Christmas carols anymore, but I mean, yeah, I was a musician, so guess what? I played a lot. I played Christmas carols. There was a time where it was difficult, but then I found out that some of the stuff that we played wasn't even Christmas carols. So I had to be careful because, like, for example, oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Christ the Lord. Right? That's not a Christmas song. Right? Even the next part, come all ye faithful, like all that. That's not a Christmas song. You think it is. It's not a Christmas song. It's a hymn. Right? So I had to even learn, even in that, like I was cutting off certain things and then I wouldn't play certain things. And I had to realize, oh, that's not even a Christmas song. That's just a hymn. Somebody sings it and they only use it for Christmas, which should show you something, that why would you not use this all year long when it's not even a Christmas song, right? But you see what I'm saying? Now, there are some things that are Christmas songs, though. Deck the Halls, right? With Basil Howling, right? Hollywood, certain things, right? That's something different. Yuletide and all that stuff, when they start talking about that, that's talking about Odin and stuff. That's something different. Even the 12 Days of Christmas. 12 Days of Christmas was supposed to be a Saturnalia thing, a winter solstice thing, to where those that had money switched places with those that did not, right? So that's when, once again, I have to have the right IQ, because I can feel some way about EQ. Can I even show you something? Can I admit something else? My wife had to get me, because I started becoming one of these people that was so heavenly minded that couldn't be used in the earth, right? I was one of those cats that was getting to the point to where anything that's Christmas, which this is what I mean, just hanging there with me. Anything that's Christmas shall not be in my house. Anything. So my son wanted to, get wooden snowflakes from the craft store and wanted to paint them white. It snows at a certain time of year. He liked it. He wanted to paint it. His mom wanted him to do so for homeschool stuff. And she kind of looked at me and she sees the look on my face. And she kind of let it go a couple of times. And finally she got it. She brought it in the house and she saw I was a little irritated by it. Right. And she goes, Kofi, that everything that they use for Christmas doesn't necessarily mean it was made for Christmas, right? She had to remind me, like, just because somebody wears a rainbow doesn't mean that's what y'all's intent was. You could wear a rainbow and it doesn't mean that you're. Matter of fact, we didn't do it. I was thinking about for summer this last year, maybe we'll do it next year. But I almost was thinking about doing some tie-dye shirts in rainbow colors, and having them to where we could have stuff with SOC on it and not feel ashamed about it, even if it was just for our children. But she had to remind me, like, everything that's out here, like, just because the enemy's taking it, and you forget, because you can be so staunchly against it. I started having an emotional response. Oh, Christmas is Yule with a mask. Okay, amen. All right. So, but if I'm not careful, right, I can get to a place where, because my EQ, because I'm only using certain things in IQ and in intellect and information and intel, I'm only using certain parts of it and not being exact. So therefore, my emotional response is based off of the intel that I have or that I've gone through. Right? It's going to be important that we talk about that in a second. You see? How you doing, Sister Sheila? And thanks for being part of the community. It's the V Bombshell. Appreciate you. Saw it in a worldly way. Yeah. So once again, we just talked about emotions start as sensations in the body. Feelings are generated from our thoughts about those emotions, or in other words, feelings are how we interpret emotions and let them sink in. We use the word feel for both physical and emotional states. Right? Let's keep on going. I come bearing gifts today. I told you. right? Now, here's something that they don't tell you. Your emotional state is going to be dealing with your physical state. Remember, we said, what are we talking about today? In this theme, we're trying to get out of this Babylonian IQ, stop dealing with Babylonian benefactors. So what are we talking about today specifically? That your IQ manifests into your EQ, right? That's what we're talking about today. Your IQ manifests into your EQ. Your IQ is going to be spiritual and psychological. In other words, it's going to deal with your spirit and your soul. Well, I don't like so-and-so's energy. You're dealing with EQ. You need to figure out why their energy is like it is. What's the IQ? What's the part that's going on with the nachivas, their psyche, their psyche, their soul, and what's going on with their mind, their spirit, their pneumatical thought process, right? Your EQ, your emotion is the physical. The IQ is dealing with the stuff that you have in your memory, spirit, and sometimes even your DNA memory. So we could say your IQ can be physical as well, right? But your IQ, your intel, your information is manifesting, is informing even your EQ, your emotion, right? And so here's part of the word emotion. A big part of the word emotion is the word motion, 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 right? Motion. What is motion? Right? What is motion? This is their definition now. Motion. What is a motion? Motion is the action or process of moving or being moved. Yeah, yeah, right? Because technically, motion is a thing. To move is the verb, right? Remember, when you put TION on the word, this is kind of an incomplete definition because we're dealing with what? We're dealing with somebody trying to change it for their culture. See, to move or even to mote is a action. Even to emote is the action, but emotion is the person, place, or thing. But we'll go off of the rest of it, right? Motion, according to them, is a formal proposal, right? So if somebody puts a motion out there, it's a formal proposal, but put to a legislature or committee. In other words, the head of our commission made a motion. We rewrite the Constitution, right? That is a motion. It's a thing. See, they got you trying to believe no, this is not a verb. This is a noun, right? They even messed up, right? Because I want you to see this, even in the definition, those that can see on TikTok. Hopefully the rest of you can hear what I'm saying. But watch this. They even have on here, they tell you straight up, it's a noun, but then they say it's the action or process of. But it can't be a noun and an action, right? If it's a verb, then it could be an action, but it can't be a noun and an action. So you even got to know what IQ, what are they trying to do? They're even trying to move their own definitions. It was fine the way it was, then they defined it and defined it so much, we got to redefine it. Or no, I'm sorry, they defined it to broken down what was fine. Then they redefined it, broken it down. But we need to have it what? Refined. They messed up in their own definition. You can't tell me motion is a noun, but then start talking about it's an action. Your definition is off, you see. But they try to say, if I go against that, they would tell you that I only would come against it. This is when they start trying to get us. My wife points this out all the time, right? They'll start trying to get you in. They start trying to say, oh, you don't get it because you have you have a low IQ. Like if I say, what keeps the earth from hitting the sun when the sun, and what stops Mercury from going to the sun, and what stops Venus from going to the sun? And they say, well, it's Jupiter and it's Saturn. But then I said, well, if Jupiter and Saturn are on the other side, don't they just go right into the sun because the gravitational pull is going to be way stronger now? And then if I say something like that, they go ad hominem. They don't have anything in their intel. They don't have anything to fight against it. So they use ad hominem, right? They're apologetically unsound. They try to make fun of me, ad hominem in the Latin, meaning to the man. So they just say, oh, you stupid. You don't have your intel, your IQ must be low in this. But no. I'm going off of what you told me. You told me that gravity, right, which by the way has been disproven, at least what their theory of gravity is, but through Sir Isaac Newton was already disproven. But you say gravity is still real. We know that it was disproven because that's why you say Einstein's a genius, because he disproved it. So if gravity was disproven, then but let's just use not even go there. You say that gravity is still a real thing. Okay, well then gravity is stopping it, but when everything's on the other side, what's stopping the Earth and Mars and Venus and Mercury, whatever, right, from going into the sun. What's stopping it? Has to be something more than gravity. Then that's when they have to come up with another theory, which we start trying to get into too, something called dark matter. And dark matter is nothing but melanin. No. The only thing that matters as far as you not going into the sun is you're in Yah's hands. Abba, come on now. The Father has decided, the source of all has decided that you will not go into the sun. And there's nothing any demon on earth, any devil on earth can do about it. How you doing, Tamaya? Thanks for being on. There's nothing they can do about it because you didn't create it. There's nothing you can prove to go against it because you didn't create it. You see what's going on? Right? How do you doing, There's nothing you can do about it because you did not create it. Be mad at me all you want. Right? You see, you got to have the right IQ. They're trying to get you to have their IQ, but we need kingdom IQ. You need a KQ. You need an update. You need to stop coming off of their IQ. You need some KQ. You need some kingdom quotient. You need some less CS, common sense. You need some more KS, common sense. How you doing, Sister Kimberly? That's a kingdom sense question right there, right? And if your answer is, hey, just shut up, well, then you're doing the same thing that you say the church does. If somebody asks you that question and your thing is to just say, well, you don't know because you don't have a high IQ. That's what they do to you in church when you ask a question and they say you just not on the level of the pastor. Sometimes that can be the answer, but every time that's the answer, you need some KS. Come on, not some CS. You need some kingdom sense. Get rid of that common sense. Common sense is getting people messed up. Common sense says you can eat whatever you want, pray over it, and your body should be healthy. But that's not even how Yah created you. Your body is made out of the earth, but you don't even eat out of the earth. How do you not eat out of the earth and then expect your body to remain earth? Uh-oh. You don't even eat of the earth. You're made of earth. Do not eat of earth. You're supposed to have fruit. Do not eat fruit. You're supposed to produce seed or carry seed. Do not eat seed. You are what you eat, but don't even grow your food so you can breathe into what you will eat. You're supposed to eat you. That's why you need to grow your own food. Come on, Holy Spirit. Somebody don't like this. It's all right, though. Look. That's why you need to grow your own food, because you need to breathe into what you eat. The food's supposed to be you, and you're supposed to be the food. Becoming one. You got people out there talking about, well, why are you guys talking about that you off animals, you off vegetables when you eat them and stuff anyways? No, you don't. The vegetables are supposed to be grown from you, an extension of you. You're supposed to love them as you love yourself. That's why you talk to them. That's why you sing to them. Yeah, it's a spiritual thing. This is a spiritual experience we're talking about. We're not talking about the same stuff. You got to, right? When I grow, right, and still into the wintertime, we still going to have our raised beds out there. And when I grow some of them potatoes and stuff and I eat, when I grow that cabbage and I eat, when I'm growing those onions and I'm eating, right? I breathe into it every day. It tastes different. It tastes better to me. It doesn't taste better just because it's natural only. It tastes better because I'm eating something that I breathed into. This is why Yahweh is married to you and you are his wife. He breathed life into you. Why would he not have what he breathed life into come right back? Come on, somebody. You catching it now. He spoke, Adam, man, you did not exist until Yah breathed into you and you became a living soul. Once you became a living soul, okay. Now you can go ahead and do this and do that and walk the earth and do this and be obedient, etc., etc. You taste better to Yah. You smell better to Yah, the sweet smelling savor of your praise. The things operate better because he's just simply having a relationship with that which he breathed into. And you're having a relationship with you breathed into. Abide in him as he abides in you, or abide in you, or he'll abide in you as he abide in him. You can do nothing without him. Why? Because you're breathing into each other. This is interdependence. When you catch this, it's different. They can't talk to you anymore when you got the right IQ. They can't just talk down to you. They can't just say that you're slow. They can't just say that you're dumb and you don't think like us. You're not this, you're not that. They can't talk to you like that once you get this IQ. This IQ affects your EQ. Let's keep on going. Emotion is a verb. See, now they're going to try to put it as a verb. Once again, it can't be a verb. It has a TION on it. That means it's a noun. But let's just keep on going with what they say. They say it's a direct or command, or so I'm sorry, to direct or command someone with a movement of the hand or head. Emotion, right? But that's really technically not emotion. It's a mote. But that's what we say. See the motion that they made. But see, watch this. Now, but I'm trying to go through this motion thing with you for this reason, right? I'm trying to go through this motion thing with you for this reason, right? The reason why we're talking about this motion is because it's in the word emotion. It's the biggest part of the word emotion, right? And your IQ manifests into EQ, okay? Watch this. The motion, the state of your body is the emotion, right? Your body moves or motes. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead. I think it's the next one up. The body moves or motes. In Latin, right? It was to move, movere, then became Latin, right? Moto or motio, or motio. And then in Old French, you would say motion. That's so that's the origin. Your body has a certain motion. I know they want you to believe when you move, that's what motion is. No. Your body is a certain motion. You move, movere, right? You move, motio. That's the action, right? You move, movere, you move. And then after your movement, right? Movement now means the thing that governs your move. If you don't know, MENT on the word means that you're talking about something that governs. And I know somebody said, what about government? Well, government literally means what governs the government, or the governs the governed, right? Right. But MENT on the word now means that it's something that governs. What is parliament? Right? They're governing you by the first part of the word, right? So when they talk about movement is basically us just saying something has moved you in a certain direction, right? Or I'm sorry, something has governed you, right? So something governs your body, some kind of IQ, some kind of intellect, some kind of information, somebody speaking to you, some kind of law, some kind of community has what? Has decided to help you with movement, but you move according to the movement. A movement doesn't happen because people move. A movement causes people to move. You catch the difference? And how you doing? I don't know if that was I was a sign or if that's somebody else, OWL, but thanks for being on. Right? A movement is different. This is how words work. These are spells. Remember, you're spelling a word. You got to know what they're spelling out, what they're casting on you. You got to know what they're talking about. See, a movement is what? The thing that governs your move. But once you are part of a movement, then you move as the movement does. Right? There are some people that didn't even believe in Black Lives Matter. I was never a part of Black Lives Matter. But because I said things similar or might have supported certain mindsets of it, people automatically said, you got to be part of the movement. I've never was part of the movement because I never moved with it. I never moved under it. I was never governed by it. Right? So, but it still looked to people. Why? Because people who were in the movement, they move a certain way. So if I said anything that looked like it might be part of the move, everybody just said, oh, he must be part of Black Lives Matter. That's not how it's supposed to work, but that's how people do. That's why some people will say, well, when you say, I believe that a husband and wife should be something that's sacred, people say, oh, see, you're all the way on the right and you're a Republican and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not. Right. But somebody makes the mix because they believe that because you said something similar to a movement, you must therefore move that way. Or you have a move that's similar to a movement. No, my movement, right? What moves me, my movement is the kingdom, to do the will of the Father that sent me. Matter of fact, if Abba didn't send me, then it doesn't move me. Right? But Abba himself in this movement has said that he governs in such a way that we should be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in his word. So guess what? That's why on certain things I don't move, because the movement requires me to stay still. right? You got to catch these words. So your move is the action, but the motion is the noun, right? Movere, move. Movement governs your move. But what are we talking about here now? Motion, right? Right? To mote or to move even, right? It's the action. But here we're talking about motion. You become motion. Your emotion. What do we say? Culture influences your beliefs, and your beliefs will guide your what? Emotions. When somebody gets angry over something, you've hit their belief. And their belief is something they're trying to protect because you've hit their culture. When you give a truth, this tornado of truth that you give, hear me, preachers, especially the MITs. You about to go into a whole nother thing, right? This thing that you use, you gotta realize what you have is powerful. That's why we have to be careful about how we wield it. But this thing that you've been given to be able to preach this word, this gift, this ability that you have to be able to decipher the word and to give it to people the way that you do, you have to realize over your families, over your wife, over your husband, over your children, over the people of Yah. If Yah one day allows you to be in the position that I'm in, and prayerfully he does, and you can go ahead and you can be over people, et cetera, right? Hopefully we'll still be connected in some way, but you know what I'm saying, right? And Yah continues to move you and guide you and do all types of great stuff and this and that. And you start to reach out to the community and everything. I just want to remind you, I'm just here to remind, I'm sent to remind you now that when you give this truth is a tornado. This truth eviscerates. This truth lacerates. This truth causes people to never be able to be the same again. This truth educates. This truth will break you down. This truth will cause people to have to change or at least consider change. This truth holds people accountable. It's a tornado. It breaks down things. The foundation that it's going to break down is their culture, and the house that it's going to break down is their and the house is going to break down is their belief system. They built their house on this belief, and when you show them that it's built on sand, they don't like the fact that you're telling them that it's only a matter of time before the tide comes in. You're telling them it's only a matter of time before the hurricane comes in. You're telling them it's only a matter of time before that big wall of water comes in and you don't know what to do. It's only a matter of time that you built that house and you got that property on the side and on the beach in Miami. And every day we see more and more of that property go into the sea. It's only a matter of time. I know it's great. You finally got enough money. Now you big time. Now you can go ahead and you can own something. But you got to realize it's not a great thing to go into because you're investing in something that's going to keep washing away. No shade to you. I appreciate your life. I want you to continue to do better. I want you to be greater, right? I know you're going to become great. I know you're going to do great things. I just want to tell you, I just got to tell you the truth, though. You're about to run into some stuff that you weren't really, nobody really told you about, but I'm just letting you know that I don't mean to upset you, but I got to tell you the truth. And when I tell you the truth as a truth teller, you're not going to like the fact that I'm telling you that, hey, you got your house built in the sand. It's not going to be what you thought it was going to be. You thought it was a great investment. It's not a great investment. That's why they get upset with you, because that tornado was coming and it messes with they have an emotional response. They have an emotional response to you. They have an emotional response to what's going on. They're upset and frustrated. Matter of fact, at some point, they're going to tear it down. Remember, we talked about that when we started the series off. When you go to Revelation chapter 17, it says that the people who were the ones who sold themselves out to the great harlot are going to be the ones at some point to realize that she needs to be torn down. They'll bring her down. But once they bring her down, they're still going to be guilty of being under her. They still have to focus on the punishment. And do you not see now all these red pill cats and all of them having to go back and realize, man, maybe we need, now they still not doing it correctly, but they're coming out now. Maybe we should make sure that families are strong. Maybe we should stop telling everybody just have as much sex as possible. Maybe we should tell them, Luke 12:51, that not everybody's going to be at peace, that they'll be divided when it comes to the word. Maybe we should tell them that, Yah has given us a sword. And when you open up your mouth, the sword is coming out. People get cut. Matter of fact, the old school, the old folks used to say it like this. They used to say the word of Yah is a two-edged sword, right? And they would say it like this. They say it cuts you going out or it cuts you going in and it cuts you going out. Now, you don't have to have a two-edged sword to do that. Anything sharp does that. But that's what they would say, right? That was the old saying. You got somebody old school in your family, especially you got some kin from down south. That's how South in America. That's how they say. It's a two-edged sword. It cuts you going in, it cuts you going out. Right? It hurts when somebody tells you that the culture, that's your foundation, and the beliefs that you built your house, everything in your house is furnished because of that. It emotionally does something to you. You are the emotion. You have become this thing. You have become this thing. And you feel a certain way because you have become this thing. Right? You feel a certain way because you have become this thing that they told you were supposed to be. When y'all introduces you to truth, it hurts. Right? And by the way, right, intelligence quotient, we talk about what IQ and EQ is and all that stuff earlier. Right. But by the way, let me just, this is what the world says or whatever, but let's just make sure we give you what they say EQ is. Right. I think we've already kind of laid some stuff out, but now we can start getting a little deeper, believe it or not. I know we've been talking for a while, but we can be a little deeper. But prayerfully, you've already gotten something out of what we've been talking about already. Watch this. EQ, emotional intelligence, otherwise known as emotional quotient or EQ, is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. That sounds nice, but there's two sides to EQ, right? Because there's some people that don't know how to use it or don't meet a certain emotional quotient. Now, we have to say this once again, just like IQ, intel, information is based off of the culture that you're coming under, right? EQ is based off of the culture. If IQ manifests into EQ, if the information I have manifests into my emotional quotient, then if IQ is based off of culture, that means EQ is based off of culture. Right? Got one last thing for us, and then we can just go ahead and get into this for the rest of the time. Empathy. You see, and so what they're trying to do is say heart and brain. They have like a heart on one side, they have a brain on the other side. And on the heart side, so I guess it's supposed to be like your feelings, right? Or how you feel about something, what you're passionate about, maybe. And then your brain side is supposed to be like your more scientific side or focus side. Somebody was arguing that with us yesterday, right? The left brain controls everything. The left brain is feminine, so women run everything, blah, blah. She didn't like the fact that I disagree with it. Well, they would tell you can't measure it, which is not scientific, at least in their culture. I don't think you need to measure everything, through actual data, like written out data, rather. I feel like we have enough data in many different ways to where we can describe things and look at things anyway. But, they would probably tell you that I'm wrong about that. But nevertheless, this is what they say. They say empathy, right? They put that on the passion side. If you're empathetic, you got to be somebody who's in touch with your heart, right? If you have social skills, you must be somebody who's in touch with your heart. If you have creativity, you must be somebody who's in touch with your heart. That something comes from your heart, right? As if you don't need your brain to create, right? But, this is what they're saying. To have self-awareness and regulation, that means you're in touch with your heart. Understanding of feelings, that means you are in touch with your heart, or comprehension, we would say, right? And it's not a focus. Your heart is not a focus in most schools. Okay, I roll with that a little bit. Now they say on the other side, your brain. So they're saying that's your EQ. All that stuff we just mentioned: empathy, social skills, creativity, self-awareness and regulation, understanding feelings, and it not being focused on in schools is your EQ. Now here they say on the other end, this is what they say your brain. So the stuff they focus on in school is supposed to be for your brain. Yeah, all right. But they say that's your IQ, your skill, your logic, concentration, reasoning, and memory, numerical and verbal data. And that's, of course, all of those are focused on in school. That's the way the world looks at IQ and EQ, right? But once again, hopefully you've gotten by now, you cannot separate the two. Hopefully you've seen by now. You cannot separate the two. The IQ is just manifesting into the EQ. The intel that I have is manifesting into the emotion I become. I don't use emotions. I am emotion. You said they told you your IQ was high or in high school. Never said anything about EQ. Yeah. And by the way, EQ is relatively speaking, it's a new term. right? Nobody used to think about EQ. We have a lot of different things that we call things, and I'm not trying to belittle things. I'm just saying we have a lot of things that we begin to call things that nobody ever concerned themselves with because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't something that we looked for, or looked towards, or something that we had to make sure we were schooled in. There's a lot of things now that we kind of deal with, right? And that we have people tell us about and all this stuff, and we don't necessarily need these things, right? How you doing, Sister Barbara? So IQ always manifests in the EQ. I think we've made it a point to even show by the world standards that your IQ is going to affect your EQ. Your intellect, your intel, your information that you have is going to affect your EQ, right? So those things being said, now that we kind of got through a lot of that, we started in John chapter 3. For those of you who've been with us that long. Yes, it's been that long since we read that scripture. But we started off in John chapter 3, right? And the first 3 verses are something that basically are showing us that this whole thing, we read John chapter 3, verses 1 through 17, but the first 3 verses are really showing us everything that we talked about in a nutshell. IQ manifesting into EQ. The information that you have will begin to show how you emotionally respond. IQ, your intelligence, your information manifesting into EQ, how you react or who you are. All that stuff they put on the heart side, everything they put on that heart side. Hear what I'm saying? Everything that's on that heart side, guess what that was? That was just who you are. They said empathize. If you empathize, that's who you are. If you do not, that's something you got to work on. But that's just who you are. You see, they try to separate it into all this stuff or whatever. No, if you empathize, that's who you are. If you can't empathize, we got to deal with that. Right? If you can make it through, right? That's who you are. If you can concentrate, you concentrate, that's really who you are. When they talk about concentration, that's a skill. And that's it. The skills emanate out of who you are. You've been given a gift. The gift is not separate from you. Now, if you're talking about developing the gift, okay, well, there's tools and stuff, there's intel, there's information we can give you concerning your gift, but your gift is who you are. In order to empathize, you must concentrate in order to empathize. Those who do not concentrate on somebody outside of themselves, they cannot empathize. But according to their IQ test, how they would say that you are, and what they would say you need to do, and what they would say you need to become, they would say that, that's something that they don't hold in high regard in their IQ, which is why they treat their wives like trophies. Which is why some of you maybe treat your wife like trophies. Because at least trophies get shined and they get put on display, and you like to relive, the glory days. You like to go through their past. It's interesting that people actually sometimes have more love for trophies than they have for wives. You said you were one. Yeah, a lot of people. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of people who will either treat you like a trophy and sometimes don't. Because now that I think about it, the Holy Spirit, she's speaking now. Let me just say what she's saying. There's a lot of people out there who have trophies that are treated better than their wives. You know what's interesting? A wife will say, "Hey, I'd like to think about something," and you say to her, "Don't bring up the past," but then you keep the trophy in the trophy case, so that you can relive your glory days. You don't want the glory of Jehovah to come down and be upon your marriage and think about the things and think about what you've done in the past and how not living it, but think about some of those things and say, what can I do to make sure that I'm better as an emotion, as a person that I'm supposed to be today? Like you just say, no, I want the IQ, I want the intellect, I want information, but don't hold me accountable to this EQ. Right? Yeah, don't come out the box. I got you in the case. As a matter of fact, when you get a trophy, you like to have a bunch of trophies. A lot of brothers like a lot of trophies, right? So you see a trophy case, and they've got trophy cases going back from when they were little to all their awards. And you go visit their mom. They like their mom because their mom likes to be able to do things in trophies and put everything in their case, and then their mom gives it to them. And so they love to be able to relive that. And so their mom loves it when they talk about the stuff in trophies. And she's kind of, but the mom also likes the woman to just stay in a box and do this and be celebrated when the mom says she can be tolerated. That's when you deal with the mama boy syndrome and stuff like that comes up too. And you're dealing with people that like to treat trophies better than wives. And if they'll treat you like a trophy wife, then at least they'll put you on display. Like, a lot of people talk about that they have trophy wives, but you don't even buy her clothes. I would say she's a trophy wife, but you don't even put her on display. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. All right, we just talked about yesterday, Ephesians chapter 5, that your woman should be put on display when she should be consecrated, right? When she should be put on the side, right? Husbands, love your wives as your husband loved the assembly and gave himself for it, right? And washed it by water of the word, making sure that she was sanctified, put on display, put in a place to where she's separate from everybody else. At least you would think you would do that, but a lot of men don't even treat wives like trophies. They just, because if she was a trophy, if she was your car, she'd be washed, she'd be cleansed, the rims would be taken care of. You got a problem with taking care of her nails, but you like to make sure that you can't afford to get her nails done, but those rims are on point every week. Well, yeah, Pastor, but you don't understand. I can get one bottle of this for $10 and it can last me. Okay, buy her $10 worth of nail polish. Make sure she can do her nails. And you don't just get any polish for the tires or any finish for the tires. You don't just get any wax for the car. Right? I'm not saying, bro, you got to spend $100 a week. Matter of fact, if you know how nails work, if she gets her nails done correctly, she don't need $100 a week to get her nails done. Right? Now, that's when you're dealing with somebody who's not dealing with what they are as a wife. But see, you have this mindset that you don't even want to uphold her. See, it's a weird thing going on. See, you have some intelligence, but it's not the proper intelligence to get the emotional response that you want. And so now here's your wife saying she doesn't feel like she's giving affection, she's getting secure and things like that. There's a wife out there that doesn't care if her nails are done or not, but she starts feeling some kind of way that you won't even ask about her nails, but you'll make sure that your car is sweet. Your car looking sweet. You see, your IQ, your intel, the information that you're using, or the information that you are knowledgeable of is something. And Sister Bree, I apologize. I'm gonna come to you. I did see your comment a little early. I kind of was in the middle of talking, so I don't. Forgive me for I wasn't ignoring you. We could probably do that in a second. I just want to get through this last thought because the Holy Spirit wanted me to make sure it's not the last thought, but I know this is definitely something that's in our bullet points. Okay, watch this. So Sister Bree, just give me a little bit, and then I promise I'm coming right to you if you're still on with us. There's levels to this, as there is anything. Okay. There's being smart. We've talked about this, but this was probably a long time ago. I don't feel like we brought this up for a while, like maybe even a couple of years, even at least a year and a half. But there's being smart, right? Watch this now. There's being smart. There's being intelligent. There's being smart. There's being intelligent. There is knowing something, and then there is being wise. 4 things, 4 markers. There's being smart. There's being intelligent. There's being knowledgeable, and then there is a thing of wisdom, being wise. How you doing, Gasm? Once again, there is being what? There's being smart, right? There's being intelligent. There's being knowledgeable, right? And then there is being wise. And if I could add a 5th one, right? Not only is there being wise, but then there's a way of wielding wisdom, right? If I can just add a 5th one on there. Now, this one that just actually the Holy Spirit just brought it, because usually we just deal in the 4, right? But she started to kind of unveil this to me yesterday when I was getting ready for today. And so it kind of brought it across my memory again this rising, right? So let me be obedient. So there's being smart, there's being knowledgeable. I'm skipping, sorry. There's being smart. Take over, Holy Spirit. I apologize. There's being smart. There's being intelligent. There's being knowledgeable. There's having wisdom, right? And then there's what? There's how you wield wisdom. Right? Okay. All right. You ready? Smart. This is going to be working definitions. All these just working definitions. How you doing, Sister Rita? Right? Yeah, all of which the Holy Spirit will lead and guide. Watch this. So smart is your capacity. If we could, smart is the container, if you will. Smart is your capacity, right? This is smart. Let's just say this is smart. Smart is the container. Everybody has the ability to be smart. Now, you might have a bigger container, shorter container, whatever it is. You might be smarter in certain areas. That's all fine and gravy. I'm just talking about some basics right now. Everybody is smart. Everybody has the ability to be able to hold something in, right? But intel is the information that's poured in. And some of us can't even get the intel because as smart as you are, you got a cap on it, right? But we don't want no cap. We don't need no lies. We don't need you to lying to yourself and thinking that you know everything, right? We need you to stop the cap, put it to the side, and let something be poured in. A lot of people we can't help but so much because you don't allow anything to be poured in, right? You are a vessel, you are smart, you have capacity to learn and to grow, but nobody can pour in, or somebody poured in a long time ago, and for whatever reason, whether it was trauma, whether it was generational curse, whether it was a decision that one made, whether it was your emotional state, whether it was your EQ. Remember, we even looked up one of the definitions that they have for emotion that shows us that emotion is a conscious decision. Right? Which means that if you're angry, you can see when you're getting angry. If you decide to live in it, that's a conscious decision. That's you becoming anger. Right? Anger is not becoming of you, but you can become angry. Right? Okay. But a lot of people are capped off because they can't have certain things poured into them. You've decided already and you twisted it tight. I've been hurt before. All right, Sister Sage. Amen. Y'all have a great day. Right? How you doing, Sister Sandra? I've been hurt before. I would listen to you, but I've been hurt before. I put a cap on it. Stop the cap. You can't be it's not great for you to be in this position where nobody can pour into you at all. You're gonna have to go through the process of allowing the Holy Spirit to help you to twist some of that stuff and remove some of that stuff and forgive, so that eventually it can be released. And then don't hold on to it. Stop the cap, put it on the side, because you need to be poured into. At least don't put a cap on it until at least you've gotten filled. At least do that. Get filled up first. So you have smart, the capacity, but then you have what? Intel. That's the information. Now, what information you're getting from? Whose culture are you getting that from? What mindset is feeding you? Right? The people who wrote the Bible lived a certain way. Do you live that way? The people who were influenced by it enough to keep preaching it, they lived by a certain thing, kept the same culture, kept the same commandments, kept the same environment, believed the same thing about husband and wife. They didn't preach that Yahushua or the Messiah was wrong 85% of his life because he wasn't preaching and teaching like he did the last 3.5 years, not knowing the culture, that he can't even be a rabbi until he's 30 years old. That sermon doesn't make sense in your culture. You see what I'm saying? They didn't read Psalm 119 and just pick and choose certain things. Psalm 119, every 8 verses is a new character. 22 characters make up the Aleph Bet, or the cultural writings, the characters that they use to put together words. So when they read Psalm 119 verses 1 through 8, they had to know about the Father. If they read Psalm 119 verses 9 through 16, they had to know about the Son. If they read Psalm 119 verses 17 through 24, they had to know about humility. If they read Psalm 119 verses 25 through 32, they had to know about the door, the entryway. If they read Psalm 119 verses 33 through 40, they were thinking about the Holy Spirit. If they read Psalm 119 verses 41 through 48, they were thinking about something that nails the family in place. If they read Psalm 119 verses 49 through 56, they were thinking about something that was a high place, a weapon, a place, a mountain of Zion even, right? Something that cultivates. If they read Psalm 119 verses I might be off. Well, I might be off now. I'm not sure exactly where we are in our numbers. I'm guessing now. Verses 65 through 72, they were talking about a hedge of protection, a wall to protect them. You see what I'm saying? Like there was a cultural thing that was there. So they were poured into. They had the capacity. They were smart, but they had to be willing to be poured into. Well, who's pouring into you? What's being poured into you? How many of you have read Psalm 119 and read it with the correct characters and the correct mindset? How many of you know Badashat's the first word of the Bible? It wasn't called Genesis originally. It was called Badashat. 6 characters long. The 6 characters go like this: Bet, Aleph, Resh, Shin, Yad, Atav. Right? Bet So it means like this is what they mean. The Son, I'm sorry. Yeah. The Son. Oh, no. I got that wrong. Why am I doing that? Okay, I've been doing the wrong thing. My bad. Bit, right? That means the Son who comes out the right family, becomes our head, being destroyed, being led by the Holy Spirit to the cross. Barashayat. That's the first word of the Bible. It's a prophetic word. If you know what the first word is, you already know where we're headed. Because Yah gives us the end from the beginning. That's what vision is. He says, I'm gonna show you where we're headed. Now let's walk this thing together. Right? But who's pouring in? You have the capacity to be poured into, but man, that's high fructose corn syrup. I mean, it makes me feel great. It makes me shout, but I need to pour a little bit of that out and have Holy Spirit pour something else in that when I drink of it, I get the pure H3O2, not just the H2O. I need the H3O2. I need some minerals in that thing. I need this to be something that's going to help me to get rid of certain waste that's still in my body that should not be in the body anymore because I should be, I'll spot a wrinkle. You see, like this is different. See, so your first thing up has got to be what? You got to realize that number one, you are smart. And now we got to deal with the intel, the information. There's smart, there's intelligence. But then next up after that is what? Is being knowledgeable, able to have knowledge, able even by knowledge, right? Now, what is knowledge? What is to know something? K-N-O-W. In your Bible, even in English, whenever you see the word not know, what does that mean? And thank you, Sister Nadine. Right? When you see something known in your Bible, what does that mean? And I'm gonna be right back. TikTok, give me a second, sorry. Right? In the chat, you who are still on, tell me, what does that mean when you see somebody talking about knowledge? Okay, sorry, y'all. What does that mean when we see the word knowledge? When somebody knows somebody, right? When somebody knows somebody, to know somebody, whenever the Bible says somebody knew somebody, it meant they became intimate. If you're supposed to know Yah, you become intimate. So and so knew so and so, and they conceived a child, and the child's name, the child's authority, the child's Shem was. Every time. To know is to be intimate with. To be knowledgeable is to be able to be intimate with. So many people, everybody's smart, got the capacity. Everybody has intel. Everybody has something that can be poured in. Right? Everybody has that. But now when it's poured in, even if you're getting poured in pure H3O2, you got all the minerals with the water, the spirit is in you, everything. Right? Bless his name. Barak Yahweh, Barak Allah Shem Yahweh. But may you be blessed in his name. He got everything. You got a word, you got all this stuff. The seed has been put in the ground. But when we pour, when it's poured into you, how often do you do this? How knowledgeable are you of it? How intimate? How much do you become one with what's poured in? How much time do you set aside specifically to become intimate with what's poured in? I love y'all. I appreciate you. You know my heart. You know I do. You know for us, this is not just virtual. It's reality. We reach people all over the place. We meet up with each other. Some of y'all meet up all the time, whether I'm there or not. Praise y'all for you for doing so, especially in the United States of America, but all over the world. Some of you come on here faithfully. Some of you are on so many different things we do virtually. It is astounding. I'm so glad. It blows my mind the amount of support that you guys give and how hungry you are for the word. And I thank you for that, for your personal well-being. I thank you for wanting to become the best version of yourself. That being said, how often do you make sure you are intimate with what's sown into you? Come on. How often are you intimate with it? It's not enough to be able to just get it, to say that I have it, to say that it's nice, to say that, to say. How often are you intimate with this thing? How much time do you take to make sure that you were intimately involved in this? This is not just something that I heard. I'm not a hearer of the word only, but I'm a doer as well. If this word does something to me, I need to make sure that I don't just hear it, but I do something as well. If it sows into me, then I need to sow back into it, not just back into Kofi. I'm talking about sow back into the word, right? Thank you if you want to bless us and give a donation and all that. Appreciate you. I really do. But that being said, I'm not talking about sowing into Kofi. I'm talking about how much do you sow back into the word? How much is it a part of your life? When people come up to you and they talk to you, right? Are you afraid and ashamed to tell them who you stand for? Because you'll be ashamed of the Yehovah here or upon the earth. Then it says that he'll be ashamed before you, right? Or I'm sorry, if you're ashamed of Yehoshua upon the earth, Yehoshua says, I'll be ashamed about you in front of my Father that's in heaven. Every single day, I got to make sure this is not a cult. See, this is not something when somebody says, oh, you're in a cult, blah, blah, this and that. That's ad hominem, right? Have you ever thought about the fact? See, this is when people start trying to mess with your EQ. Their EQ is off, but they trying to make you feel like you don't have the right IQ. But their EQ is off. Their EQ is off. Yeah, put in the time. Watch this. Their EQ is off because their IQ is off. How in the world is it that our sisters are saying we want to be more modest? And you say, see, you in a cult, they got you covering up your whole body. Excuse me? How is it that you say that our brothers are pulling up their pants now? And they're not showing, literally. I'm not even, and forgive me if you think I'm cussing at you. Forgive me. If you want the babies to go away, I'm about to say the 3-letter word to start with the A. If you want to go away, I can give you a few seconds. But I'm going to say it the way that some of you need to hear it, right? Some of you need to hear it exactly this way. Look, these brothers are finished showing their ass. We tired of seeing them show their ass, physically, figuratively, whatever. And so now they're coming into the knowledge and they're being obedient. And they're not being stubborn like asses. And here it is, you sitting up there trying to get on them. Yo, you're not even going to pull your pants down in. What's wrong with you? Right? Something's wrong with that person's EQ. Because it's based off of bad IQ. Here it is that our people are saying we don't want to eat pork because we don't want the bad health issues that come with it. We're called to be healthy, and we decided to follow dietary laws that before you finally started admitting that pork is bad, already taught us that pork was wrong and told us to have no problem with it. If somebody said, well, see, I can't even invite you over because you can't even be around stuff because you know our greens are going to be having pork and blah, blah, whatever. Well, if that's the case, it's okay. I don't need to come by for Christmas anyways. If that's all we're doing is making sure that we under mistletoe, and mistletoe is something that's demonic anyway, and all we're going to be doing is talking about decking the halls with boughs of holly, right? And holly comes from Hollywood, right? And Hollywood is something that the people of Norse theology use it, but it really more so even the Druids use, which is why Hollywood has a lot of different ceremonies that are Druid ceremonies, right? If I need to get rid of that in my life, if I don't want to be part of Ishtar or Ishtar or Easter, and I want to actually get into the actual celebration of Passover, because that was the command. The command was never to have Easter Sunday. The command was never to have your best pastel colors. The command was never that if you don't come to church but one day a year, at least come that one day. The command was for those that lived the process and had 40 days before Passover even came into existence, that they would remove leaven from their home, remove the sin from their home, so that by the time they got to Passover, they would be ready to have unleavened bread, and then keep a whole week of feast of unleavened bread to make sure that they were on their way to be righteous, so that 50 days after Passover, they could continue Pentecost, because Pentecost is not a movement. Pentecost is a holy day that we kept over and over again from the first year of being set free from captivity of Kemet until there's no, if you got to wait on a Pentecostal movement, there's something wrong with you if you were supposed to celebrate Pentecost every year. And after Pentecost, we celebrate and we make sure that everybody is put on alert that Yah is wonderful, great, and continuing to have us ready for when he comes back with the Feast of Trumpets. And when we finish with the Feast of Trumpets, we didn't finish there, because right after that, we make sure we comprehend that we need to come together as a whole community and pray over the things we've gone through in the Day of Atonement, and recognize that Yahushua has become our atonement while being the high priest who was sacrificed, and at the same time was the lamb that was slain, but at the same time came back from all of that to be able to be your savior, so that you could be a fellow co-heir with him if you have the same mentality that he had. And then we don't stop there, because right after that, we get ready to go into Holy Convocation, which is in the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles. And we have 2 Shabbats, 2 Sabbaths on that day, the first day and the 8th day we keep a Shabbat. Do you hear what I'm saying? This is something that is supposed to be a lifestyle. I know it. I know it because I know it. I'm not aware of it. I know it. I'm not a hearer of it. I know it. That's what to do it is to know it. Do you hear what I'm saying? I know it. I'm aware. Somebody says, how is it that you're able to teach this stuff? Because I know it. This is not just I show up on Saturday. See, watch this. You think that you were made for Sabbath. That's why some of you don't do Sabbath things until Sabbath. But I keep certain things, whether it's the Sabbath or not, because if Yah wants me to be in his rest, I'm trying to be in his rest 24/7. It's like a tithe. I'm not tithing my time, my talent, my effort, my energy, my work, and yes, sometimes even my finances. I'm not tithing those things just so that I can go ahead and say, look, y'all see I gave 10%. I'm tithing those things to remind myself that I need to live 100% in him. So I'm tithing the first 2 hours and 12 minutes of my day. That's tithing of a day. The first 2 hours and 12 minutes of my day belong to him. And if it's not the first, then the most important 2 hours and 12 minutes of my day belong to him. I live it to remind me that if I can give him the 2:12, then maybe I can give him 3 hours. Maybe I can give him 4. Maybe I can give him 5. Maybe I can give him 8. Maybe I can give him 12. Maybe I can give him 16. That's what the tithe is for. The tithe is because I begin to know the more. The tithe brings me into a covenant with, a knowledge of, an intimacy with the Most High. The tithe is not just so I can say that I paid some money. The tithe is to say I'm intimate with you. The tithe is not to say I'm intimate. I give my time. Look at everybody giving me my time. The tithe is to say that I'm intimate with you. I give you my time. And watch this. If you tithe, Yah says, then I'll go ahead and give you more. See, I have more time with my wife than many people do because I tithe time into Yah. I'm his wife and I give him his time. And he says, oh, you know what? Well, I'll allow your wife to be given for her to get time from you. And he set up a situation in my life to where this is what I do 24/7. I'm in his word. I'm in his will. I'm his vessel. I live as a Levite, which was my whole, since I've been a little child. I didn't even comprehend what that meant, but I just wanted to be used in service. And here I am. And I make way less money than everybody else. And yet I'm able to travel way more than everybody else. Not because I'm better than everybody, but because I tithe time. I tithe hours in the study. Do you know how many sermons that I've preached that are based off of sermons that I've never preached? I put together sermons all day. There's sermons written, there's sermons in notes and Bibles, there's certain sermons on stuff I find in old envelopes. People have given me cards, and I got to be careful because I'll start scribbling on cards. I have stuff written on my heart over and over and over again, flipped over and stuff. I got a sermon, the old saying they used to say, have a sermon in your heart and have a sermon in your back pocket. At any time, I can go into giving a message and to giving the word and to showing somebody what it is. At any time, I can do this. Why can I do this at any time? Because I've been dedicated to this for so long. Even when I was agnostic for a point in my life, I still was dedicating myself to studying the word. I couldn't help myself. It was just in me. See, you have smarts. You have the capacity. You have intelligence. That's the information that's being important. But then after that, after you have the intel, what do you have? Then you have something called what? You have knowledge. That's the intimacy. After you have the intimacy, now the next you have being wise. You have this thing called wisdom. Anybody know what the working definition? This is not even my working definition, right? But it's a great working definition. Does anybody ever heard a working definition for wisdom? When I say it, you'll probably say I've heard it. Amen, Minister Nice. I'm a servant, right? When you say, you probably say, oh, I've heard that before. Anybody know the working definition for wisdom? You probably heard this before, right? It's not just in our culture, but all over the place. You probably heard this before. Wisdom, right? So they say it like this: knowledge. This is how the saying goes, right? Now, wisdom is a dominion that you're wise in, or a dome that wise things happen in. But watch this. Watch this. Wisdom, I'm sorry, excuse me. Knowledge is power. Anybody remember the rest of it now? Maybe you've heard it before, maybe you haven't. Knowledge is power, and then what's the rest of the saying goes? And wisdom is what? Knowledge is power, And then wisdom is, catch this, it's going to bless you if you never heard it. Maybe nobody has. I don't know. Knowledge is power. Wisdom is the use of knowledge. When I'm intimate with Yah, I'm intimate with him. That's knowledge. That gives me power, right? Now unto him, the one I have intimacy, knowledge of, now unto him, who's able to do exceeding abundantly above all I could ever ask or think, according to the power that's been placed within me. I have the power because of the intimacy, right? Knowledge is power, but now just because I've got it in me, something has to happen. Wisdom is the use of what I have in me. Whew, come on, somebody, right? You got some power, but how you wielding it, how you using it, right? You can have faith, but how do you work it? Faith without works. Come on, somebody, right? Knowledge is power. You powerful, right? But right, you got the faith in you. That's powerful. It will bring you through. Faith alone can bring you through a lot of stuff, but faith alone is not what you're called to have, right? It's faith and works combined. So knowledge, you are powerful. Oh, you great. You can call down all the demons. You can tell people what the word means. You can speak it in different languages. You could write it out. You could write it backwards. You can make sure that you are at every event. You're at every live session. You doing this thing, boy. You doing this thing, girl. Can't nobody roll like you. Can't nobody move like you. But how do you use the power? Because there's people that have knowledge, but they use it to rule over people. Matter of fact, that's a curse that men have, right? Adam, a curse that you have when you ate of the fruit is what? Your wife, right? Your wife will want affection from you, but you will rule over her rather than give her affection. You know what touches make her go well, but you don't use it to do anything but rule. You're more concerned about ruling over her than loving over her. If you love over her, you're technically ruling anyways, but it's not you, it's Yah ruling. You want to rule rather than Yah rule. See, you need to be touched by Yah, and therefore you know that she came out of you. She needs to be touched, but you won't even give her the affection that she needs. Why? Because you rule over her rather than love her. See, you have power, but you don't wield it correctly. Right? You catching it? You got power, but you don't use it correctly. Oh, come on, sisters. You got power. As much sisters be talking about all this, and some of y'all really believe it, but sisters, y'all really don't believe that you ain't, all that, because that there's 25 men right now. Can we be honest, sisters? And if you don't know this, let me just let you know. If you aren't intimate with yourself enough to know this, let me just help you out. There's 25 brothers right now that if you wasn't in the relationship you was in, or if you made it very clear that you was in these streets, there's 25 brothers right now that are ready to go. It's scary. My wife has told me stories, and some of you sisters have told me stories to where that you sitting up there and a man will say, "Oh, you need to go blah blah," and you'd be like, "Oh, thank you," and the man and you'd be like, "How you know that?" And the man would be like, "I watch you every day." You'd be surprised. There's 25 brothers right now that if you made it very clear that you was open for business, they would apply. If you was open for business, they would give you whatever the price is. Right? I'm here to tell you, there's friends. You think you got these male friends, and he's just my friend. He's just my friend in the spirit, and he just comes and visit. I promise you, the one time that you would let your stuff slip down, the first time you let your slip is the time that he let something else slip. And I'll leave it at that. I'm just trying to tell you, there's 25 of them right now. You more powerful than what you think, right? But you might not believe that about yourself, but there's a bunch of brothers right now. That's why we got to make sure that we protect these sisters and we talk to them and that we give them affection, right? Because somebody ready to give affection that you're not giving, at least enough affection to get something out of them. Same thing with your husbands. Husbands need affection too. They like to call it respect. The way you be affectionate with your husband is hear him out. See, this is when we start talking about EQ stuff. We're having a problem with EQ. Your husband actually has EQ, but guess what you say all the time? You think your husband has no EQ. You've heard this before. Men are only, what is it that, and men say this too. I think we're the ones that actually are the ones who kind of put this in the atmosphere, if we be honest. But what is it? Men are logical and women are emotional. Both are both. We just have different languages. Watch this. If a man calls me and he says, Kofi, I have a problem, he actually wants me to tell him how to fix the problem. And obviously there can be obviously exceptions to every rule, right? But if a man calls me up, he says, Kofi, this is my problem, he wants me to tell him how to fix it. Straight up. If a sister calls me and she says, Kofi, I have a problem, she might want me to help her out with it, but she wants me to listen to her for a while. And she might come up with the answer herself. And if not, I might give little things here or there. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? I had to learn that, by the way, right? Intel. I had to get the intel over time so that my IQ could then inform my EQ so that I could have the right response, right? But that's what, a lot of times, that's really what's going to happen, right? Ask a man what happened with his day. Women get mad at us. And by the way, you need to learn how to speak both languages. So I'm not saying only speak your language. That's part of the problem. You don't speak each other's languages. You don't speak male, female. You don't do men are from Mars, women from Venus. So Venusians don't learn what Martians say. Martians don't learn what Venusians say. You don't care about 5 love languages. So you don't care about words of affirmation. You don't care about acts of service. You don't care about gifts. You don't care about quality time. You don't care about physical touch, right? But these are things that you should know. Well, watch this. If a man, watch this. If a man comes home and you ask your man, how was his day? If you say, baby, how was your day? And he says, fine. You look around strangely. You go, well, what did you do today? I mean, I worked, nothing. You say, well, what you thinking? And then he says, nothing. Now, for you, you're going to this place. Oh, he doesn't talk. He doesn't emote. He doesn't speak well. And some of that can be true with men, of course, right? But I would tell you that a lot of sisters have not been taught correctly in emotion either, because we go off of the worldly IQ. We go off of Babylonian IQ and not kingdom IQ, right? But in your mind, you're like, he can't speak. Well, you know what? I'll just forgive him. Well, I love him enough to be able to stand him, even though he can't. You start talking about your man like this. You start talking about your husband like this. You start talking about your son like this when he starts getting older. But there's a lot of reasons that he says nothing. For example, can I just give you one that you'll be okay with? I'm gonna give you one you're gonna be all right with. I'm gonna give you one that's gonna hurt you a little bit. But I promise you, I'm saying it in love. I'm gonna give you one you're gonna like. First one you're gonna like, or at least you're gonna agree with. Second one, not so much. I'm just gearing you up. All right, I'm just letting you know where we're going. Thank you for being part of the community, Cosetta. Hopefully I said that correctly. Cosetta Denise. Right. If a man, forget he comes to you, if your husband were to come to me, I would be like, hey, what's up, bro? How was your day? And you say nothing. Nothing to me means got up, showered, food was ready, didn't have no problems with traffic, or even if he did, hey, it is what it is. Everybody at work treated him well. He had to worry about somebody saying something racist or crazy today. Got back in the car. Nobody asked him to do anything on the way home. Like, got back. Everything was straight. Food was ready. Maybe he picked up food on the way, whatever, but everything's straight. He got with his wife. Him and his wife had some quality time. He got a little bit of time to himself, maybe 15, 20 minutes to be able to do what he do. He had a chance to be able to, spend a little bit of time with his babies. And so he was grateful for it. Maybe he got a little something before he went to bed. When he said nothing, he's saying nothing out of the ordinary, nothing outside of what I needed. That's what he's saying. He's not saying, that's what he said. And man speak, when he said nothing, he's telling me, he literally is thinking, and if you think about it, the man's first response is not, like, you don't say, babe, how was your day? And he says, and like you say, babe, how was your day? Nothing. He doesn't do that, right? You'll say, babe, how was your day? This is how it goes. Babe, how was your day? I'm sorry, or babe, what did you do? Or what are you thinking? What's on your mind? Nothing, right? That's how he operates, right? That's what happens. In your mind, it was fast, but this is really how it really happened. Babe, you think anything on your mind? Anything you want to tell me? Anything you want to share with me about your day today? And he goes, nothing. Right? That's how that works. That's how that operates. Because he was looking through his day. He went through. He actually took inventory of his day. He didn't outwardly express it. He didn't do it in an extroverted fashion. He did it in an introverted fashion. Men usually think things through introverted. and then they express something briefly, extroverted. Sisters will normally get something brief. They will normally internalize everything, or they won't internalize. They'll normally go through what's going on in an extroverted fashion. They talk it out, and then once they've talked it out for a while, they get to an introverted place. Is one better than the other? No, it's just the way we're designed. Right now, so if he does that from time to time, you give him that from time to time. Every once in a while, if he says nothing, let it be nothing. Right now, he needs to express himself sometimes, and he needs to give it. It can't be every day is nothing, because then that means he's not speaking your language, right? But every once in a while, yes, give him that. That's the IQ. Now that you got the intel, maybe you didn't have that intel. Give him the ability that every once in a while he needs that to be able to just say nothing and then process everything on the inside. That's why when y'all get into an argument, you'll argue and argue and argue. Sometimes he don't say nothing. He doesn't say anything. Yeah. See, using the argument, he doesn't say anything. He's deep in thought. He's deep in thought. He's thinking. And then you finish and he's like, okay, I heard you. And you don't really think he heard you. You're mad. You storm off, whatever. You kind of calm down, cool down. It's a couple of days later. You're not even thinking about it. He walks up to you. What does he say? What does he say, sis? He says, babe. You say, yep. Yeah, what's up, babe? You say, he goes, you remember that conversation we had a couple of days ago? You like, conversation we had a couple of days ago? He's like, yeah, you remember you were telling me about, the children aren't doing this and that or whatever, and you was really upset in the teaching, blah, blah. And you, in your mind, you didn't think he even paid attention. You probably even in your mind handled the situation or whatever, right, without him, and you think he wasn't worried about it. So you're like, yeah, I guess. I wouldn't think about, well, why? What's up? And then he says, well, this is how I think we can handle it. He had to internalize it. You were just going off on him for an hour, and you have every right to do that from time to time, because that's how you express yourself, right? But he was, everything you said extroverted, he was taking it introverted. And he was trying to figure out. And so even though you saw him going through the same motions, he still went to work, right? He still gave you a hug and a kiss. He still might have been intimate with you at night, right? He still might have said, I love you. He still might have gave you the kiss on the cheek. He still might have called to check on you. He still might have taken care of that honey-do list. Right. But the whole time he was internalizing what you said, and he didn't want to come out of his mouth with anything that wasn't responsible and that wasn't going to help. Because when men come to men for answers, then, or come with a question, we think that you want an answer. So if you were that worried about it, in his mind, you didn't just want to talk it through. He thought that you wanted an answer, and he might not even had an answer then, but he has to give you an answer at some point, even if it's a brief answer, even if it's nothing more than, I thought about what you were saying, and maybe we can do this, but what do you think? And you're like, I don't even need that. But that's for him just as much as it is for you. That's just how he operates. He has, now that he's internalized it for so long, he has to get it out real quick, even if it's just 2 sentences. Babe, I thought about what you said. If we do X, Y, Z with the children, I think it'll be fine. I'm willing to work, blah, blah, blah. So it's not a problem again. And sometimes what happens now is what? Well, I mean, I don't even need help with that anymore, blah, blah. Why weren't you there when I needed that? That's not how he's wired. He's about direction. If you come to him with a bunch of stuff, he has to figure out, okay, there's all these different things. No problem. That's how you operate. You multiply. So he has to figure out he's not a multiplier as much as he is somebody that gives direction, gives the seed. The seed is implanted. You multiply it into the baby. He has a bunch of seed, so he already multiplies, so to speak. Every day he has a bunch of seed, but the seed happens what? Internally. At some point, if he doesn't even make sure the seed goes into a woman, what happens? The seed will come out. I'm not talking about just with with him doing stuff to himself. I'm talking about even naturally. He cannot hold seed in his body without having what people call the wet dream, right? So at some point, it's got to come out. If he has something in him, if you put something in him, he's got to, and it develops, he's got to get the seed of this word out of his mouth. That's just straight up reality. You said sometimes it's the approach why men don't want to answer the question too. Yeah. Now here's another one. Here's another one that you might not be aware of, right? Here's another one so that first one, people can usually, get down with that, agree with that for the most part. Here's another one though. Now you might not like this one as much, right? You might not like this part as much. You know that sometimes men don't speak to sisters because we've been taught that sisters ain't gonna listen to what we have to say anyways. This is when we got to talk about your EQ a little bit more. This is gonna get rough now. I know it's gonna get rough, right? But this is just real. Sometimes he even taught this from his mama on up. This ain't just you. His mama did this, his grandmama, as much as they loved him. And he was a mama's boy. But he was like, hey, I know they ain't gonna listen but so much. Right? And especially if it's something that I'm saying that doesn't agree with where they're at emotionally. I'm not saying that sisters shouldn't have emotion. I'm not saying that you have no logic. I'm not on that. I already made that clear. So hopefully that's not what you're doing with me. I'm not doing the whole he's misogynistic. He doesn't think if he knows that it's going to anger you, and he knows your first place is to go to anger, or the first place is to tell him why what he said is wrong instead of saying something as simple as what you want him to say. What does he say when you go through that whole thing? Okay, babe, I'll try to come up with something to be better. Then he comes back a couple of days later and says, babe, I think blah, blah. I'm talking about healthy relationships. I know there's some non-healthy relationships. I'm talking about healthy relationships. He comes back after a couple of days. He gets himself together. Why? Because if you presented him with something, he thinks that he's supposed to solve a problem. So he takes it as, even if I didn't know it was wrong, okay, thank you for letting me know I'm wrong. I'm going to come back to you later. Right? And I'm going to say, this is how I need to be better. Right? He doesn't get that from you, though. And he actually is trying his best to speak your love language. And when we're young, when we're little boys, can I go to the little boy? Can I go to the prince who's going to become a king? The king is in him. The seed of king is in him, but he still has a ways to go before he's worthy of sitting on the throne. Right? Can I go back to a certain place in that he is learning as a prince from a lot of women in his family, his sisters, his mother, little girlfriends he has here or there, and them little cute dates that y'all think he's doing. He be treating the same way, his grandmother, his mother, and then eventually, his wife. This is what happens a lot of times. And now society is telling him anything that's masculine is toxic. So he's very repressed and he holds a lot of stuff in. And what happens is that he knows that if he said, let's say you come to him and you come to him in a way that he can't hear it, in anger. If he says, I don't like the way you came and approached me, somebody's going to tell him that's toxic masculinity. I know you don't want to hear this, but this is real. This is real. If you approach him wrong and he says, you addressed me wrong, that's actually really high EQ. He's actually very in tune with his emotions. How you doing, Sister Amanda? That's actually really high EQ. He is very in tune with his emotions to be able to tell you emotionally that was not sound. You shouldn't have came to me like that. If you come to me like that, don't you know that I could go into anger? He's actually right. He's actually doing very well with that. He's actually saying, dude, don't you know that if you come to me like that, if you yelling at me, if you cussing me out, if you doing this, if you talking about my mama, if you saying I'm just like my daddy who I never met and therefore I'm not a great father. So don't you know, are you doing that? He might ask you, are you doing that on purpose? Maybe you don't know. Maybe I'm using Greco-Roman language here, but maybe you don't know that's a subconscious behavior that you actually want me to fight you, or you need to fight me. But I'm not trying to get into that. He might talk to you like that, and what do you do? Oh, you talking down to me? No, he's actually emotionally sound right now. Yeah, it's rude. Yeah, he's just being real. He's being emotionally sound. He's an emotional champ right now, especially if he's not yelling or raising his voice. Now he might start getting, and watch this, because he has a deep, like with me, I try to be careful with raising my voice because the way I talk can sound like I'm raising my voice. So if I get real angry, you know what I'm saying? Then especially I'm going like this, and you don't understand. Right, it can look crazy. I'm 6'5.5". My wife is not. If somebody's looking at that situation, they can look pretty crazy, right? You see? So I'm just saying I have to be aware of it, but you got to understand, right? Even if he raises his voice a little bit, he already by societal levels, he's not allowed to even show emotion. He's not allowed to show who he is. Remember we talked about the difference? Motive, emotional, or move is different than motion, right? Motion is a noun. Motion is who I am. So I'm never really allowed to show you who I am. If I ever show you who I am, I'm told why it's wrong. Or this is one that a lot of brothers really can't stand. Sisters, y'all really not gonna like this one, because some of y'all do it. You know you do. Come on, I love y'all. Right? Love you, family. I say this in love, but some of y'all do this, or at least used to do it. Let's be honest. When he says, this is what happened, and you say, well, I don't remember it like that. But when you tell him this is what happened, he doesn't get to say he doesn't remember it like that. So he just shuts down. He says, well, babe, we were supposed to do blah, blah, and this and that. And because we didn't do this, this is why this happened. But it's not about that. We can go ahead and be better. He said, no, I don't remember it like that. And I got a memory like a steel trap. And I'm smart as a fox. And I don't. And he just go, okay. Like every time. And especially if it's every time that happens, he just stops talking. And then later on, you'll say silence is violence on some type of stuff like that, right? You'll hit him with, why are you always shut down? You see, you're so emotionally irresponsible. And he's sitting there like, look, do you want to know who I am or not? Right? In his mind, that's what he said. I'm telling you, somebody who's been doing life coaching now for 20 plus years, right? Who's done marital coaching now for 20 plus years, who does one-on-one sessions, who does stuff with people's children, who has people just call them out the blue, and I got to be able to respond, and at least, even if I can't tell you exactly what to do, at least give you tools to use. I'm trying to tell you that brothers, right? There's exceptions to every rule, but brothers, even brothers that you think are LGBTQ plus and all this stuff, right? Brothers, when you bring them something, right? When you bring up something like that or whatever, and you immediately tell them they don't even know what they're talking about. Look, I can be wrong every once in a while, but if you're going to tell me every time I'm wrong, I don't care if I'm wrong 99% of the time. You won't even give me a chance to see if I'm right 1%. But every time you talk, you got to be 100% right. Then he shuts down. What's the point? It's not even an argument. See, here's something else brothers and sisters need to learn. You know that it's all right to argue. You just don't know how. Amen. We open to learning here. I had to be open to learning stuff too. And that's why we started off protecting our sisters. We always got to protect our sisters and our brothers, right? We got to protect the little girl in you. We got to protect the little boy in you. We got to protect the unborn child in you, so to speak. We got to protect the egg. We got to protect the semen. We got to protect it all. We got to protect your spirit, your soul. But I'm just trying to tell you, your husband, and ask him. If you don't believe me, ask your husband, ask your son, ask them if they go through that sometime. Ask him, hey, when you start to tell me something, right? And I mean, does it seem like a lot of times I just, right? Now you might be more mature than some sisters, praise God. But I promise you, there's gonna be a lot of you're gonna be surprised that your husband thinks like this, or your son thinks like this, or your nephew thinks like this. Hey, when I start, now y'all are usually nicer to your nephews and your grandchildren, but even some of your grandsons are like, yeah, okay, if I start talking about this, grandma's gonna tell me why I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll just be quiet. If mama starts talking, she just, she got to be right no matter what. And I know she's right. I know she loves me. I know she benefits me. I know she takes care of me. So, hey, she does all those things. Let her be right every time. It's just, he concedes it. That's his way of trying to meet you halfway, right? And he stops. We should be interdependent. Yes, he stops being interdependent in that area of communication. Right? I promise you, your husband wants to give direction. Matter of fact, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. Read your Bible, it'll bless you. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. Your husband wants to give direction. Matter of fact, if you don't, this is why he gets upset sometimes. You ever heard your husband say something long like this? You're like, well, I don't like the way you do it. I don't like the way. And finally, he just blows up and he says, well, fine then. Tell it. He slams it. Fine then. What we need to do? Tell me. I'll do whatever you say. You ever had your husband have a moment like that? You ever had son or brother or somebody have a moment with you like that? The reason they did is because they love direction. They give direction and they want you to go ahead and take the direction and lay down the law. That's Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. Fathers give direction. Mothers lay down the law. And when the father sees that when daddy sees mama's laying down the law, daddy will defend mama's laying down the law. That's why when you were little, some of you don't do it no more like this, but when you were little, right? And you be acting up, and mama say, get it together, and you didn't disrespect mama, but like she, you just were in your zone. You were just happy. You were hopped up on candy, whatever the case might be, and you just running around, you knocking stuff over. She keeps saying, hey, and then finally she hits you with something like, all right, I'm gonna take your daddy when he get home. Everything stopped. Right? Everybody go, wait a minute, what? Because we know that if daddy had to come home, even if daddy's tired, even if daddy doesn't want, like daddy would sometimes would tell you, I don't even want to whoop you, but your mama told me what you did. She told me you deserve a whooping, so I'm gonna whoop you anyways, right? He would even tell you that sometimes. I don't even want to touch you, but because your mama said, I'm gonna have to go ahead and touch you up real quick. Right? He might even half-heartedly. He didn't even want to do it, but he gonna do it because why? Because whatever mama says is the law, is supposed to be something that is a direct reflection on daddy's direction. And if mama will give law to protect his direction, then he will protect mama's law at all costs, because that's how he gets peace. Y'all know I ain't lying. You know you used to do that. My wife does that. Solomon be doing stuff, and she probably didn't think that she can hear. And she doing this and blah, blah. She'd be like, oh, I need to tell dad that you said that. And immediately, silence. Because he knows that that's my wife. He's been taught how it works between husband and wife. I don't tell him just that's your mama. I tell him that's my wife. Mess around and speak like that to my wife to see what happened to you. Mess around and get angry. Boy, I know you're angry. I know that's your mama. I know you don't even mean anything by it. It's a natural emotional response. But I'm going to teach you, son. Hey, when you get angry, don't ever go like this around your mom. Right? I know you're going like this and you're just angry. Breathe. Release your hands. Because if your hands stay like that too long, there's something in your daddy that's going to defend his wife. And you might not want to see it. You know, you might not want to see, because that's love too. Love is defending my wife, and love is just disciplining you enough to know that if you even look like you threatening around my wife, that you need to know that, because if you look like you threatening around another man when you get older, another husband, right? Or another husband's wife, he might put it to you as well, right? It's a culture. He needs the intel. He needs the intelligence to go with his EQ. So now he know when he hears it like that, that makes sense, right? I can see, even though I'm only 8, I'm taller and bigger than everybody else. I'm getting bigger and stronger. I'm kind of strong enough now to where if I really wanted to, he couldn't beat his mom or nothing like that, nor would he, right, in the fight. But I'm just saying, like, he's strong enough to move her around a little bit and stuff now already. He's stronger than other children. He's strong enough now to where I got to start, even at 8 years old. I'm like, okay, I got to start paying attention to you now, right? Like, we got to, when we spar and stuff, like, if I'm not careful, he kicked me in certain places and certain kicks and stuff. Oh, okay, I see you got some force. It don't hurt her, but it gets my attention, right? He's getting that at age, so he's got to have the IQ, the intel to go with it, right? You can't play with mama like you used to play with mama. You big now. You know what I'm saying? It's nice and everything. Every once in a while, you try to come in the room and take a nap with mama, but you're not a little baby anymore. When you come in the room, you stretched out on the bed as much as she is. You can't come just in the middle of the night, be like, Mom, Dad, can I sleep in the middle of y'all? You a big boy. You take up the whole bed. You know what I'm saying? You can't just go out here. He has to learn certain things, intel now, to go with his EQ. Both got to develop at the same time. The IQ is going to manifest into the EQ. Right? His EQ, and it's even I gotta walk a line, right? It's interesting because I started, because he looked so big, in my mind, I started treating him older than what he was. I had to even peel back some of my stuff as a father. What do I mean by that? We might be crossing the street somewhere, and a lot of times I let him walk without holding my hands and stuff, depending on the parking lot and stuff. But sometimes he's a little boy, and little boys like to hold their parents' hand. And just because he might look like he's the size of an 11 to 12-year-old at times, right? He doesn't act like it, but he doesn't look like it. Doesn't mean that he shouldn't be treated like a little boy. So every once in a while, hey, little boy, hold my hand. Let me, have you under my arm as I'm doing something. Sometimes, even though he heavy as I don't know what for his age, sometimes still let me pick you up and carry you. When you're tired, let me carry you from the car to the bed or something like that, because that's where he is in his development, right? And if I'm not careful, I'll make the mistake of, just because he has a lot of IQ for his age, I'm not feeding the EQ where he's at. You see what I'm saying? This is why, even if I can do that with an adult and realize that an adult male has some little boy stuff that wasn't fed to him when he was a little child, then I need to do it with my son too. You said, did I ever realize there is the last time that you picked him up and never really know when? Well, that too. You never think about, this might be the last time that you pick him up or whatever, outside of a reason why you probably wouldn't want to pick him up, right? But I'm just saying, right? A lot of times the IQ level, even if they have a lot of intelligence, we're not thinking about how the IQ or the intelligence quotient or whatever in that regard is actually meeting up with what people are now trying to call the EQ. His EQ is 8. You see what I'm saying? Like, he's got a lot of IQ. That's great and everything, right? and he's very mature, and he can make it look like IQ wise, he can talk like he's older, read like he's older, this and that. But you hang around him long enough, he's going to show his EQ is 8. Right? Same thing with you and your relationships. Realize somebody's IQ might be here, this and that, or whatever. They might have all this stuff, but there's some things in your life. There's some things in your spouse's life. There's some things in your friends and family's lives. There's some things in some SOC members' lives. There's some things in your pastor's life to where you'll see some stuff and be like, "Ooh, his EQ, his countenance. Something happened real quick. Like, what happened? It's because I'm not ready. I haven't been trained in that." How you doing, Minister Smail Ray? I talk about this all the time. Look, I'm an introvert. People don't believe it, but we come together in a group and people just go, "Pastor's quiet." I'm quiet because I'm not developed in some of that stuff. Matter of fact, the Holy Spirit was revealing this to me today. When we get in groups, I didn't grow up. I wasn't popular. So I wasn't really always in a lot of group stuff. So I'm not uncomfortable necessarily in the group, but I don't know how to act. And I didn't realize until like recently in life, I was never one who realized that actually I was one that until recently in life, I did not realize that people are supposed to act different in groups than they act in one-on-one stuff because you're dealing with a group. You know what I'm saying? So I watch groups when they get together and I'm kind of like, okay, I guess that's how you're supposed to do stuff. And it's 11:11, babe, if you're listening and watching. Um, um, so I would thought at one point in my life, why are they faking? Like they don't act like that when we behind closed doors. It's not that they faking. It's just that's not how you act in a you know what I'm saying? That's not how you act in a group. No shade towards anybody. That's just not how a group acts. Right? When you do group activities, you're needed different. So I've started to learn, okay, when we come together in groups and stuff like that, I need to be better. I need to be different. Now I get it, no problem. Before though, I would have been like, that's weird. Why they act like that when they get in the group? Yeah, you don't act the same in groups that you act when people come together. And that seems like a very simple thing for people. For me, that's something that was really off-putting for a long time, but I was immature in that area. And it caused me to look different and even be more off-putting, right? And then even though I'm an introvert, I realized, well, if you're in a group, you got to be more extroverted. So you'll notice I'm better. Like people who meet me now, I'm better. Like I even search around for others. I'll see people aren't talking or people feel left out, and I'll start talking to them because I know what that is. I can empathize now, right? But it's not my first response. Like my first thing is not to be like, hey, we're going to do this. You know, I'm gonna make sure that everybody's gonna feel comfortable and confident and consistent, and everybody's gonna feel like they're fair. Like that's not actually my first response, but it's become my first response because it's necessary for those who are part of the family. They need to feel like they're part of the family. Even with stuff like on TikTok, when I first could go live, one thing that I'm really big on, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. If you notice, it's I'm not perfect at it, but and there's so many platforms, I'm starting to become less consistent with it. However, I'm very big on trying to contact you back. If you put something in the comment section, even if it's just putting a like or putting a thumbs up or putting a heart or doing something like that, it is something that was always in me. And because I never really had conversations with people. And so it was something like I grew up in a place where my father never said, I love you. He showed us love. But, he's old school. You don't say a man doesn't say, I love you to his son. That's how he was raised. Well, because of that, I've had this need to have, I love you be said. And so I said it to my children. And I started saying, you know what? I say it to my children. I say it to my sons, especially. I say it to my daughters, of course. I say it to my wife. I said, you know what? I need to say this to my father. And so I started saying that. And at first, he just got to be on the phone. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Right. And now it's gotten to the point to where said it so much that he beats me to the punch. Or, he texts me out of the blue. Hey, just checking in with you. Hope everything is well. Just wanted to say I love you. Hug the wife and the babies for me. But there was an EQ thing. But I had the intelligence. I had the IQ. Now what I had to start doing, I had to start using it, right? So anyways, I'm sorry. And Sister Bree, I've had you hanging. I don't even know if I ever came back to you. Now I apologize. Please forgive me. I'm done after this. So you have smart. You have you have smart, which is the capacity to hold. You have intelligence, which is the information, the intel. You have knowledge, which is intimacy. Then you have wisdom, which is the use of your knowledge. And then, watch this, really on another level is going to be when you realize when to wield your wisdom. How do you wield your wisdom? When do you wield it? What situation do you wield it in? That's the highest level. What situation do you wield it in? When you get there and you know when to wield it, right? Because how to wield it was all that stuff we just went through. So when you know when do you bring this out, right? When do I need to tell the person on the corner, you know, to do thus and such or whatever? And really, that when to wield it goes back to what I believe what Sister Monica was saying earlier. All of it's going to be connected to the Holy Spirit. When Havak HaKodesh says move, you move. When she says unsheath, you unsheath your sword. Yeah, you got to be led and everything. As much as I wish I could feed every person, I can't feed every person without going broke. I got to be led. I used to do that. I used to give everybody else my time, money, and stuff like that. And my family was falling apart. So everybody else was getting delivered and my family was getting worse off. That's not how that works. I'm up. How you doing, Emmanuel? All right, I'm sorry, Sister Bree, if you're still on. If I haven't talked so long that you haven't forgotten what it is that you wanted to ask initially. Like I said, you can tell, but I was just like, the Holy Spirit, she told me I had to get that out. And that was something that was in our bullet points. It was mandatory, it was necessary in the body of the sermon, if you will. So I had to make sure that we got that out there. I apologize for not getting that out there earlier. But did you, or getting back to you earlier? I don't know if you're still on or not, or if you can even still remember what it was. If not, hopefully, if you guys see Sister Bree next time she's on, if she's not on still, just if somebody can remember to remind her. Oh, there it is. You save it for another day. It's not for today. Okay. Amen. But yeah, that's all that I've got for today then. That's what I was saying if you wanted to do it for today, because I don't have much more. I guess we didn't really address the scripture, right? We read John chapter 3, verse 1 through 17, but it'll look different to you now as far as EQ. Because basically, IQ meeting EQ, because it says it like this in John chapter 3, going back to it. It says, there was a ruler who was a Pharisee. So remember, the Pharisees were rulers. He came to Yehoshua under the cover of darkness. And I know people want to tell you nobody knows why he came under the cover of darkness, but if he came under the cover of darkness, he was hidden. Right? And so, or at least nobody saw him. And he comes to meet Yehoshua, and he starts telling Yehoshua that he must be a prophet, he must be sent by the Most High, he must be the man, because nobody can do what he's doing unless they be a prophet. And Yehoshua, I believe it's in verse 3, shuts him down and says, look, until you are born again, until you have a different EQ, until something else shapes your sensibility and how you talk to me, we can't have a conversation. He stops it in his tracks. And we might believe that's wrong. That's terrible. He stops it in his tracks? He says, we can't have a better conversation. How you doing, Sister Karen? He says, we cannot go deeper into this conversation unless your EQ is right. Unless you're born again. What is Nicodemus' response? In John chapter 3, verse 4. Right? So when you get a chance to go through this now, you'll see this differently. IQ and EQ. IQ manifests in the EQ. Yehoshua is saying you might have some intel here or there, but you don't have the proper intel and therefore don't have the proper EQ. What's his response in verse 4? John chapter 3, verse 4. Nicodemus says, how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter, a second time into his mother's womb? Now remember the context of born again, the concept of born again, the sept of born again even, and the precepts necessary. The precepts were there, but the sept is kind of a new concept for them. The idea is something that doesn't resonate correctly with them because they go, or because we're used to hearing born again, but this is not something you really see in the Bible, right? It's in the Bible, but it's very rare you see the term born again, right? Born again is in your Bible, but it's very rare you see it because it's not something everybody walked around saying be born again, born again. Sometimes, I mean, we heard things close to like being reborn or renewed or refreshed, etc., right? Created me a clean heart. But this concept of being born again, going through a gestational period again, and then being on a sincere milk again in a spiritual fashion is something that Yehoshua is introducing in that regard. And we're like, well, and he's like, how does that happen? He says, I don't have the intel. So Yahashua says you don't have the EQ. You're coming to me and you're saying I'm a prophet, this and that. Look, that's not something that blows my mind. I already know what I am. I already know I'm the Messiah, right? Your IQ and everything you bring to me is not something there. But I'm telling you, we can't have an EQ conversation. He says you got to be born again. You got to get the right intelligence to come back and talk to me. He says, how do you get to this place of EQ? How do you go back into your mother's womb? This is Yahashua's answer. Right? This is Yahashua's answer. Culture speaks here. Amen. This is Yahashua's answer. What's his answer to him? His answer is what? Verily, verily, amat, amat, truly, truly. And whenever you see something in Avda twice and something in Paleo Hebrew twice, your first response is to do what? To pay attention. So he tells this religious leader who says you got to be prophet. He says, okay, well then pay attention. Amat, amat. Here's truth. Truth. I say unto thee, specifically to Nicodemus, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of Elohim. He then goes as far as to say that which is born of the flesh is flesh, that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. He says, so don't marvel, don't be amazed, don't be like, what are you talking about? Marvel not that I said unto thee specifically, ye must be born again. That all of y'all. Now he takes it from thee. So he says, don't thee be worried about it, that I've said unto thee, that really everybody got to be born again. At first I was focusing on you. You didn't get it. Now I'm going to show you it's not just you personally, thee, but ye, everybody must be born again. It says, he says, watch this. If you hear, and he gives a little parable. He says, the wind bloweth where it listeth. Okay. And thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh and whither it goeth. So is everyone that is born of the Spirit. He says the same way that wind blows, you might even know kind of sort of what direction it comes from, possibly. A lot of times you don't even know that. But he says, one thing you don't know is when it's going to come and when it's going to leave. He said, you have no power over that. Hey, how you doing, Craig? He says, you have no power over that. He said, everybody who's in the Spirit is the same way. You have no power over them. Who is he talking to? Who is he talking to? A ruler. Who is he talking to? Somebody part of the Sanhedrin. Who is he talking to? A Pharisee. This is somebody who's supposed to be a ruler, right, over Israel. And he's saying you were supposed to rule over Israel. And I want you to realize this, though. When you come into here, you thought that your IQ was going to give you proper EQ according to what makes you a ruler. But when you walk into this arena, right? Remember, they said when he gave the Sermon on the Mount, the people who listened to the Sermon on the Mount, listened to Yahashua give the Sermon on the Mount, they said he spoke as one who had authority, not as one of the scribes and the Pharisees. So he spoke, they thought that these rulers were everything. And then when Yahashua started preaching, he was detrimental to their ruling. Oh my greatness. When you start preaching and living this thing correctly, you are detrimental to the rulership of the enemy. The enemy rules a certain way. Right? The enemy rules a certain way. The enemy looks like he is holy. He looks like Revelation chapter, the enemy looks like Revelation chapter 13, right? The Antichrist spirit looks like Revelation chapter 17, has horns on their head like a lamb, but speaks and sounds, speaking all those blasphemies. He looks like he's in position. He looks like he's righteous, but he's not. You become dangerous. Exactly. You become very dangerous. You become very dangerous to society when you start to move the way you move. Do you hear what I'm saying? So here's a ruler, and he's telling the ruler that, hey, you cannot deal with somebody who's in the Spirit, because to be in the Spirit, you must be born again. Nicodemus says, so then verse 9, Nicodemus answers and says unto him, how can these things be? So now he came, he thought he had a certain IQ. He thought he was going to be able to have an EQ conversation. Right? He came, he thought he had a certain IQ. He thought he was going to have to be able to have a certain type of EQ conversation. And he realizes real quick his IQ by itself is not enough, and his EQ therefore is not enough. Now he's asking the question, how can these things be? Watch Yehoshaphat's response. Be careful who's feeding you once again. Be careful the intel, who's pouring into you, the IQ, who's saying what your IQ test is based off of. Here's Yehoshaphat's response. Yehoshaphat answered, this is verse 10 of John chapter 3. Yehoshaphat answered and said unto him, art thou a master of Yehoshaphat, and knowest and is not intimate with these things? See, your assumption is because somebody teaches on Sunday. Your assumption is because somebody got a TikTok channel or YouTube channel or Facebook channel or podcast. Your assumption is because somebody puts on a priestly robe. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. And how you doing, Whitney? Your assumption is that because somebody went to school for it. See, your assumption is that the judge knows more law than you when the judge thinks that he's in the country. If the judge is in the country and not a corporation, the judge doesn't know more law than you. Your assumption is because somebody is the president of the United States that they are above you, but no president is above the man or woman of Yah. I know you want to hear that. But watch this. If President Joe Biden was to refer to me in a speech, guess how he would refer to me as? He would refer to me as Pastor Kofi. I'm not trying to say it because I'm all that. I'm telling you because I have a position, right? If he were to refer to my wife, he would refer to her as either the Honorable Maya or First Lady Maya. It's out of respect. I respect him in his place. He's the president. But he respects me in my place. I'm the pastor. Right? You see what I'm saying? I see you, Sister Bree. You see what I'm saying? You got to realize the power that you have. You can call out the devil. You can call out a demonic influence. You can call out something that's not of Yah. Why? Because that's the power that you have. Fine, let me take it out of my family. Some of y'all think I'm being biased or trying to make it about me. If Minister Bertram was being mentioned by the President of the United States, they would refer to him as Minister Bertram. Because that's his position. The Constitution demands that your religion is always put above man's religion. Does it not? Do you believe your Constitution is the law of the land? How you doing, Meets Judah? Thanks for being part of the community. If so, your Constitution, your scroll, your savar, and not even yours, it's Yahweh's, but what you've been charged to and what you are subject to, and therefore when you're subject to it, it makes things subject to you, then this is what you use, this is what you utilize. In your micronation building, don't forget to put this in there. In your homesteading, don't forget to put this in there. In your homeschooling, don't forget to put this in there. How you got everything else in there, but you don't have this? I'm just saying, right? So Nicodemus says, how can these things be? Yehoshaphat says, art thou a master? Are you not supposed to be a teacher of Yehoshaphat? Are you not supposed to be a rabbi? Are you not supposed to be a ruler? And you don't know what I'm talking about? We make this assumption that just because people got titles and positions and stuff that they know exactly what the word says. They do not. That's why you need to know, according to the word, Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, Sermon on the Mount, you need to know. You need to know more law than the scribes and the Pharisees, right? Here's another little hint, and we got to keep it moving. Time is up. Watch this. You ready? Praise y'all. Anybody that is ordained, what did I say? Anybody that is ordained. If you are ordained, you ready? You ready for this? Any person who is ordained, watch this. You ready? Anyone who is ordained, catch this now. You cannot be ordained without law. Because ordaining somebody means they carry out ordinance. You are ordained to carry out ordinance. So any ordained apostle, ordained bishop, ordained overseer, ordained pastor, ordained prophet, ordained prophetess, ordained deacon, ordained deaconess, and whatever titles you can fit in there, ordained evangelist. Any one of them who is ordained, I want you to catch this now. Any one of them who is ordained, they are only ordained by law. Right? If you don't believe in law, you can't be ordained. That's the way ordinances work. You cannot carry out an ordinances without being ordained. You cannot be ordained without law. So any ordained whomever who would preach and teach to you or talk to you and say law doesn't matter, but they would stop at a red light. I won't say they're a fool, but that's foolish for sure. All right. So Nicodemus is talked to, and Yehoshua says specifically, he says what? He says, art thou a master of Yehoshua and knowest not these things? Then he says, verily, verily, pay attention. Amat, amat, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know. Now he's making a distinction, right? Right? We speak that which we do know. We speak what we know, and we testify what we have seen, and ye have not received our witness. What is a witness for? A witness is supposed to tell you what they have seen or they have heard. They are testifying. Their testimony is vital to prove that somebody is righteous or is not. If you have an affidavit, that is what? Somebody testifying. That is a witness. They are saying what they have seen or what they have heard. Now you go back to John chapter 3, verse 3. Yehoshua says, if somebody's not born again, you cannot see the kingdom of heaven. In other words, you cannot testify to the kingdom of heaven if you cannot even see it. He says, we can see it, but you can't see it. He says, Nicodemus, you might be a ruler of Israel, but you cannot see the kingdom. How you doing, Renaissance? He says, you might be able to see persons walking around, but you can't see the people of the kingdom. I'm sorry, you said most in position are ordained legally, but without kingdom authority. I can't say most, this, that, whatever. That's not for me to decide. I would say let their actions speak, right? That's when you know this law, start listening to what comes out their mouth. And those who are ordained should be speaking the law. They should be keeping the ordinances. I'll just leave it at that, right? Because I'm running out of time too. But think about this. Yehoshua says, Nicodemus, you might be a ruler, but you can't see kingdom. Nicodemus, you might be a ruler, but you cannot see kingdom. Right? He says, but we can see it and we have testified. He said, but you didn't believe it. The rulers didn't believe it. The Sanhedrin didn't believe it. The ones who had rulership because of false doctrine couldn't believe when real doctrine showed up. They wouldn't receive it. And then he says after that, if I have told you earthly things and ye believe not, how shall ye believe if I tell you heavenly things? If I told you how to eat correctly, but you can't get that. Right? This is why he gives what you call parables, right? The parable is what? A parallel in something that's what? Able. You're able to see something parallel, but they don't touch. You watch this. See, the IQ manifests into the EQ, but watch this. In a sense, the spirit and the flesh, they're not going to touch. He's even using some of the Babylonian benefactor stuff to teach you how to get stuff from kingdom benefactors, but they don't touch. He's showing you things of the world and trying to get you to see how it works in there. But there's certain things that should never touch. There's certain values that should never touch. Christmas should never touch with kingdom because Christmas is not biblical. Right? Jeremiah 10, 1-5. Easter should never touch because it's not biblical. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23. Right? We should, there certain things as far as Israel not being something that should still be held up is something that should never be touched. Romans chapter 11. Verses 1 and 2, and so on and so forth. Right? There's many things that we keep putting, but they shouldn't touch. He's giving you a parallel thing. You're able to see the parallel, but parallel lines are only parallel as long as what? There's a 90-degree angle between the two. If there's a 90-degree angle between the two, then they're parallel lines. They will never touch. Right? It might seem like these are both pointing at you, right? But if I get closer to you, only one of them's aimed at the screen. As I get closer, you're going to see very clearly, oh, okay, only one was there. They're parallel, but they don't touch. If they both come together and meet at the same place, which is what a lot of people want, they're not parallel. See, a parable is something that you're able to see, but don't get it twisted. He's showing you one thing, but it doesn't touch the spirit. He's showing you how it works in the flesh, but it really doesn't touch the spirit. He's trying to get you to see a spiritual plane without you actually seeing. He's trying to show you that, yes, these things can work, and they work in tandem. They can work together, so to speak, but they cannot touch. They work. There's a chasm between the two. And there are certain things you got to realize that do not touch. That's why you got to be born again, because the untouched, we talked about that touched the other day, right? There's some things in you that are untouched that need to remain untouched and pure. There's some things that are touched, but you got to keep the untouched. This is why there's a raklai, or what you call a firmament, that make sure that shamayam, it's always on the other side of something that's untouched. There's only one thing that even threatened getting close to it, right? There's only one thing that threatened getting close to it, and that was the Tower of Babel. It said that if there was agreement on the level that they had, it would have been able to not only get up high, but they would have gotten into heaven. He had to bust that up. He had to bust that thing up. Those things that were touched. There are certain things that shouldn't touch. Certain things that must remain pure. Kahava love. Yeah. So when you read John chapter 3, now you get a different context. You can see it differently. You can see it more clearly. Aman? Aman. All right. That being said, we're done for today, at least here. I have been told by Minister Lashava that things will be on for later today for when life happens. And prayerfully, you guys will be able to be there and support. And she's actually going through some things. Life is happening. So we ask that you guys be there, be obedient, and maybe you might be able to support her in these things when life happens. But if you need you should have a Google Calendar invite. If for some reason it's if you don't know what it is, by the way, it's a group that meets together and has conversation concerning, just going through grief. And grief doesn't mean just when somebody passes away. We go through grief and we grieve certain things, and we grieve a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. And Minister Elisha extends a service to us to help us to get through that. So if you're interested in it, we do have the Zoom link for you. You can contact us and get back in touch with us. We'll have information up on TikTok in a second if you're interested in being able to join up with us and do different things and see different things that we do for the community. And we hope to have you guys come back. If you are somebody who likes what you heard today and thinks that you might join on a regular basis, we have multiple TikTok channels. You might want to follow as many of them as possible, because normally we're not even live on the Risings on this channel, but because of TikTok and TikTok being in the wrong on some things, we are doing the stuff on this channel right now that's set up on the third channel. So we usually do the live session on the third channel, evening sessions when we have them, which are usually during the week, Monday through Friday. Except for Wednesdays, which is my day off. We normally use Kofi_42 for that one, but just until Thursday we'll be on this one. So just kind of keep note of that. If you're somebody who kind of likes what you heard today, Patreon members, we will have these scriptures, or not scriptures, these definitions that we put up today. We'll have them up on Patreon for you. Hopefully everybody got a chance to look at the little mini movie that we have from our Feast of Tabernacles on the YouTube channel. If you haven't been on the YouTube channel yet, you'd like to be able to see some of the stuff that we talked about over time, or see this series in particular. It's on our YouTube channel, which is called #FindKofi, #FINDKOFI, #FindKofi. And so if you're looking for another place to be able to find us, we appreciate it. I'm sorry, if someone takes a screenshot that's notified, doesn't necessarily notify, I'm able to go back towards the end or at the end of it and see if there's somebody whose name we're not used to seeing or something like that, and we try to get in contact with them. Also, too, if you're on YouTube, if you ever go over to the YouTube channel from time to time, like every quarter, we got to ask people to go and update their stuff in there. We have a database, and now we have now that we have some people helping us out behind the scenes and doing some of the paperwork stuff for us, so to speak. We actually have something where we can make sure that we can get in touch with you guys easier, and that it won't just be me. So we're having the ministerial staff make more of an effort. They've been doing a great effort this year, but now we've given them more so they can make a greater effort. How about that? And reaching out to you guys. And the people who are part of you, and even some of the people who are point of contacts, we'll start letting you guys in on that list as well, so you can reach people that are in your area. But if you've never done a shout out with us before, how you doing, 0913? If you've never done a shout out with us before, you might like it. It's something that we do on here. We put some music and we put some of our information up. So hopefully you'll like it. You'll be pleased. And maybe you might want to be a part of some of the stuff that we're doing at SOC to come in the future. But we thank everybody for being on. We appreciate you. We appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. Thank you so much to the moderators, to ministerial staff, to SOC, to I bow down to the lottie-dottie and everybody. If you agree with us, disagree with us, if you got something, if you want to participate in the future, if this is just a one time, if this becomes one time many, we appreciate you, we honor you, and we hope that you have a great day. This is my family day, so I'm gonna get ready to spend some time with them, and we hope that you guys are able to do something that's similar, or even if you just get some rest, get the greatest rest that you can. This is the year where we look beyond what we see. We're getting ready for next year. We're going to hashtag finish strong so that next year we can begin to expect a blessing. That's why we're making room in so many areas of our lives. So we're excited. We're grateful. We're thankful. Those of you who were interested, it looks like it was further along than what I thought as far as the plans and things for it. So it looks like those of you who are interested in, I was saying there was a possibility for Jamaica and stuff like that. It looks like that's going to happen in the end of December. So if you're interested, I'm not sure how much funding we'll be able to do for people for this, but if you're interested, we might, we have to give you some information and stuff and things, but you might be able to congregate over there if you're somebody who watches from Jamaica or whatever, or somebody who's near the island over there in another island wants to come over and something, say, hey, we might start putting some of the dates and things like that out in a little bit. We're trying to put information together. We already got a little SOC hookup kind of planned anyways, but if there's some of you, we had talked about it possibly being a thing down the road, it looks like that's going to happen at the end of the year, like the last, or the week, basically like the week before the end of the year or something like that. So we praise y'all for it. I was blown away. Didn't even have God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all you could ever ask or think. So I was blown away, but it looks like it's going to happen. So if you would, if you like the link, so if you're on YouTube, the link is in the description. Matter of fact, the Minister Samantha Ray, gosh, I'm sorry. The link is in the description with the YouTube video. You should have actually gotten an email with the actual database on it. So you should actually have the database, should be able to look through it. If it should have been something sent from Kofi Ofori 082 at Gmail, you should have gotten that. So if there's people who are interested in that, I know it's very last minute. I apologize. I knew it was gonna happen, but I didn't really think it was gonna be a possibility. So praise God. Like I said, it looks like we'll be doing that. So if right now we're trying to finish stuff that we need to do on our end for even personal stuff, but as far as just making sure everything over there is structured and blah blah. But yeah, if you have interest in it, I guess we can go ahead and put that out there, and maybe you want to come and do some stuff with us. From time to time. But thankful and grateful for you guys, and appreciate you all. Don't forget. So what do we have coming up? So this next Saturday. So this is the next 3 Saturdays in a row, right? Next 3 Saturdays in a row. This is the main events, obviously, besides the main stuff we're doing. We got 3 events coming up in a row, 3 Saturdays in a row. We'll try to put this all on social media for you guys to have all the information and the links and everything. All right. But 3 Saturdays in a row, this is what's coming up. So November 4th, this Saturday coming up, by the way, ministerial staff, November 2nd, reminder, we're going to have our meeting at 7:00 p.m. Eastern New York time. I'm sorry, I said 7 o'clock. We're shooting for, I'm going to change it. It's usually 6:30, but we're going to try 6:15. Sister Renee, if you're able to make it, we'd like for you to be on the meeting, at least for the beginning of it. But ministerial staff, we have a meeting Thursday. We're going to shoot for 6:15 p.m. Eastern New York time. All right. We're going to go over some stuff as far as a lot of information we kind of been putting out there, making sure everybody's in tune with some of the new stuff we have, making sure everybody's in tune with The people who are doing paperwork type stuff for us as well that we need to start making sure is there. And then we're going to also make sure that we have our stuff scheduled at least through the first week of January for preaching and all that stuff. So we need you there for that. If not, we might need to we might just have to assign somebody, or I guess I'll just do it. But we like to be able to give everybody as much opportunity as you can to grow and to function and to have your platforms grow and stuff as well. If you want to even do it on your platform, or you want to start with us and therefore get people to come on and then start doing on your own platform, please feel free. Pretty sure that we're not going to be doing the natural food stuff with Sister Judith this Friday. I'll double check, but she's out, I think out of the country. So we're praying for safe traveling mercies for her. But anyways, next 3 Saturdays, November 4th. So this Saturday coming up, November 4th, brothers, we will not be having our men's meeting November 4th, but we will be having specifically on the podcast, we'll be having the ministerial staff, the men on the ministerial staff come together and have a word for you guys that'll go from 7 to 9 p.m. based off of something that we did a little while ago. We're going to bring it back, but we're going to do it for a couple hours. Amen. So this Saturday coming up, brothers, special podcast. We still will have our normal podcast, Shabbat Shalom podcast at 10 a.m. Eastern New York time, but we'll have a special live podcast with the brothers on from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's for everybody, but it'll be specific to the men. All right. We'll be talking actually a lot about how we can be better for our sisters, but it'll be specific for the men. Then after that, I'm trying to make sure I got my stuff together, so y'all, sorry. Then after that, November 11th, we're going to do 4 hours of power. That will be on November 11th. That will be started at 4 p.m. Eastern New York time. That'll be 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. I know that that's 5 hours, but the way it'll go, 4 p.m., 15-minute break, 5:15 p.m., right? Then 15-minute break, 6:30 p.m., then 15-minute break, then then basically the last one into the evening, and we should end around 9. Okay, that one will be on social media, mainly on this. Even though we'll have the other TikTok channel back up, it will be on the same TikTok channel on the original channel. So if you want to join us for that, the 4 hours of power, feel free to do that. That'll be there. And that'll be myself. And once again, as a reminder, we do ask for donation. We're not asking for a specific donation, but we do ask for donation. That donation, to be honest with you, that's a personal thing. That's to help my family. We do that every year. We've been doing that even before many of you even knew Servants of Christ was a thing when we were doing it physically. We've been doing that for a long, long time, almost as long as the Women in Red event, right? So that'll be November 4th will be for the men, or the men's podcast, where brothers are going to talk about how we can be better for our sisters. That'll be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. November 4th, November 11th, the following Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time, we'll start our 4 hours of power. And then November 18th, we'll have our Brothers in Black. Once again, everybody's invited to that. That'll be when our brothers who are doing their ministerial training, they'll actually be doing their initial sermon. So we're excited about that, and we hope that you can join them for that as they get to that place and they're finally licensed. And then in December, for the Women in Red, which is December 23rd, that'll be when our sisters will do their initial sermon. And some of the ministerial staff, you might need to be ready for both of those. Brothers, I'm going to be reaching out to you guys very soon with specific assignments. All right. So we thank you. We appreciate you. We honor you. We're grateful. We're excited. And we look forward to you guys being with us again. Thank you so much again. Once again, please check out Minister Anais at Anais Faith Jones. That's ANAISFAITHJONES. Anais Faith Jones at gmail.com. This is the business that we're talking about today. She is on YouTube. There you can look for her email her to get more information about different things as far as prayer, about how to start a business, about life coaching, whatever the case might be, about book writing, publishing. She has a lot of different things that she's into, about how to start stuff with your EIN, wealth of knowledge there. Very powerful, and not going to play around. She's going to be straight up with you. So don't be messing around, and because she's going to be straight up with you. All right. She's going to show you love, very empathetic, but she going to let you know, boom, 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 boom. Right. Praise God. How you doing, Sister Toya? So, but we thank you guys. We appreciate you. We honor you. We hope that you guys Do well. Have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your day. That's my family day, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to go with them. I'm running out of battery, so we're going to do our shout out, but we won't have that long. We thank you. Also, too, don't forget Minister Anais Faith Jones has her podcast as well. So feel free to support her there. She also does classes on prophecy, on prayer, things, a lot of different things like that. So we're honored and grateful and thankful for all the stuff that she does, including the stuff she does for SOC, but specifically with her business. All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you. As always, we give all honor to the Most High, Yehovah. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Much love to you guys as well. Thank you. Continue to do great things. And remember, as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. I shall see you tomorrow for early rise of Bible study session and then for our regular live session. And until then, remember, as always, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made in you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom for those of you who are observing the Israelite calendar. Rashan Shalom for those of you who are doing the Gregorian calendar. And yes, thank you, Minister Tamara. Don't forget, we'll get back into Malcolm X for the second part of the watch party this Saturday coming up on November 4th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. Everybody who's still on TikTok is going to have to be a really quick shout out because the battery is not